Good morning, campers, and welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning. I am Tom Connors. With me is the boss man, Andre. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Greetings, everyone, and to all our Canadian friends, happy Victoria Day.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Happy Victoria Day. Speaking of Canadians, we have one with us, Mr. Script Doctor. How are you doing?
Well, I just had a couple of burgers, and in a few hours, I'm going to have more burgers, steaks, and who knows what this evening for Victoria Day.
That's what happens when you stay up all night playing Conan.
Oh, I had a great sleep too. So I haven't been up all night. I've been up since
I'm picking on you.
And it was a good respite from all the crazy entertainment talk over the weekend, but I'm happy to jump back into it today with you all.
Sure thing. And we also have joining us Mr. Culture Casino. How are you doing?
Fantastic, and good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be here, and wow, we have so much news to cover starting from Friday. I don't know how long this stream could be. Could be rather long. We'll see.
Indeed. And we also have with us the man who I would like to be when I grow up, if he ever grows up, Mr. Chris Gore.
Hey, Tom, thanks for that intro. I'm just waking up, so.
Excellent. Well, you and I are in the same boat here.
Yeah, coffee is what I need.
Stat.
Yeah.
And we've got Gary's beard here, and he's a new member. I didn't know his sentient beard had money.
Well,
you learn something new every day.
There's beards all over Hollywood, Tom.
Also on this panel.
He lives in Texas, so I'm not sure what that has to do with Hollywood.
Yeah.
Also, we have some other super chats this morning. One from Grimzilla here says, if Mutt being dead is true, are we going to bring up KK killed off all three of Lucasfilm's franchise's hero bloodlines by either killing the kids, by making them gay? Smells really fishy to me.
Oh, interesting.
So
the bloodlines of the character. So you're not going to have like the son. Look, I haven't seen Indiana Jones, but I mean, is Shia LaBeouf in it? Is he?
I'll say spoilers for anybody who cares. Plug your ears for the next minute or so. The movie starts out this way. Yes, he's divorced and Mutt died in Vietnam.
Wow.
And it ends, though, with a Back to the Future ending. That's all I'm going to say.
That's weird.
Implying that didn't happen in the end. So they do kind of give him a happy ending, but it sounds like it's one of the three possible endings they tacked onto this.
But otherwise, it's a very Kathleen Kennedy thing to do, because you saw like the whole thing in The Rise of Skywalker, which was really about the ultimate victory of the Palpatine bloodline over the Skywalker bloodline, to the point where the Skywalker bloodline is not only completely and utterly wiped out, but their name is usurped by the Palpatines.
That's interesting, because not only is Kathleen Kennedy killing the franchises, she's killing the progeny, the bloodline. That's really Grimzilla. That's a great comment. like you can't. Then what do you do, right? Like Rey basically steals the name Skywalker. I always thought that was the dumbest. I don't know about you guys, but at my screening, people burst out laughing when she said Rey Skywalker. That was so unearned.
Yeah, I got some groans and laughs. Yeah.
By the way,
I was not in the theaters when I saw that. I refused.
Yeah, that also was completely stolen from the end of Titanic.
Yeah.
Rose takes on the name of her dead lover, Jack. She takes his last name. And it's actually poignant, right? Like she realizes she has the heart of the ocean in her pocket. Her life is kind of a clean slate, and she decides to change her name to, it makes sense. Rey taking on the name of Skywalker makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, which is why it gets a laugh and it's stupid.
Well, as I said, it does get a Back to the Future ending. If you want more specifics, Chris, go ahead and look in the private chat. I'm not going to say any more because I don't want anybody in the audience to get upset. But yeah, there's been plenty of spoiler reviews out there coming out of Cannes, so pretty well confirmed in that sense. Then we got Waltman here who says, I checked the live action Little Mermaid toys are fully stocked at my Target, with other stores now offering discounts. That's not good. It's interesting you brought this up.
It's actually
Isn't it?
very interesting indeed. Because Tommy, you have some news about that. Actually, let's begin with that.
Yeah, I stumbled upon this yesterday because the headline on the tweet was something along the lines of the Little Mermaid action figure being the hottest toy right now. Okay. And then if you actually go to the actual quote unquote article, and I say quote unquote article because it's in Good Housekeeping, which, is a known magazine. But this is clearly what I would call an ad disguised as an article. Now, Andre, explain to the folks out there real quick what that is and how we've come across them in the past.
Well, I don't know specifically what you are referring to, because I'm sure there's something you want me to bring out.
No, but it's just, it's
this
something
is
we've
like
normally seen, right? Where it's
Yeah,
clearly it's not an article. It's something that's
No,
a
it's
paid
an
for puff
advertisement.
piece. Yes.
This is something that everyone that reads online newspapers will see all the time, where you have something that looks like this news blurb, this amazing thing, blah, blah, blah. And then it's not a news article. It's an advertisement. And this right
Yeah.
here is kind of like the same thing. This looks like an article. It's something that's like, oh, wow, look at this amazing stuff that's right here among all of your other entertainment news. But it's not entertainment news. It's deception. It is trying to artificially create some kind of demand. It's trying to tell you that this is the hottest thing, and you have to get this limited thing right now. Look, it's limited. It's going to sell out. Get it now. That's what they're doing here.
Indeed.
Advertorials, as Uno Groove says.
I like that. I'm going to steal that. Thank you, Uno Groove. It's an advertorial. Yes, indeed. So the story or advertorial starts out talking about this $150 limited edition doll that's at the Disney store that only 5,200 are produced. Of course, they're rallying around this doll saying, get it now before it sells out, because it's sure to sell for extra high prices on the secondary market. So if you don't get it now, you're going to miss out, kids. But don't fret, because if you don't get that one, your kid's not going to be too upset, because let me zoom in on this part here of the article. It says the Little Mermaid fans on a budget are in luck. Mattel's our Ariel doll, which is the #1 best-selling doll on Amazon, keep that in mind for a second, is now on sale for just $12. Inspired by Halle Bailey in the new live-action film. It has long red hair, blah, blah, frickin' blah, blah, blah. And, of course, they do point out that they have the link above if you want to check it out.
Yeah.
So you go to Amazon.
I just want to say, and also like this article, if you look really closely, somewhere it's going to say that this is an advertisement. But still, you have to look. Like, this is real deceptive stuff.
Okay, so when you click that link they have there, it takes you here. Where, okay, Little Mermaid has the 2 top spots and number 6 here if you look at it. All right. Now, they're a little more expensive than they claim in that article. But then if you look over here, you'll notice that it's way down here in a category, right? So I went to the top category, which is dolls. So this is actually dolls and dollhouses in preschool. Okay, if you go to the actual top sellers, it comes in at number 4, number 8, which is nothing to sneeze at, right, Andre? I mean,
I have to say I'm pretty disappointed that there are enough people buying this to get it to a number 4 and number 8 in the first place.
But it's still deceptive at the end of the day.
Yeah, still, I think I'm kind of like interested in how that jives with it collecting dust in store shelves. Like this page right here, is this everything Amazon, or is this everything Amazon from this particular manufacturer?
Well, in this case, it would be dolls and accessories. That's the top of you go into toys and games, which on toys and games is way down the list. Way down the list. You got Legos and other things that are way above that. Then if you go into dolls and accessories, this is where you actually finally get to the list where it's in the top 10. And then if you go all the way down to preschool dollhouses and accessories, that's when you get it to be actually number 1. As you see, your bestsellers in preschool and dolls and dollhouses. So you have to go all the way down in a subcategory to get it to number 1.
Yeah, so it is selling, but it's not selling nearly as much as they would like us to believe.
Exactly. And 6 did note that it is at the top of the article.
Yeah.
So you'll see a lot of those kind of things, kids, where they claim to be, selling out, or, this is the hot new toy item. But yet people are already sending us pictures and posting on Twitter that these Little Mermaid dolls are on clearance or getting marked down already. And the movie doesn't even come out till this week.
This is something I have never really understood. Maybe someone here on the panel can explain this to me. Like, why are these things out so long before the movie, so that they don't sell when there's no demand before the movie, and then they are on clearance before the movie comes?
Well, they're supposed to be timed about 2 weeks before the film comes out. They try to get it in a general region. Most famously, like, toys started becoming a big deal. Of course, it started with Star Wars, and then it became a real big deal again with Star Wars Phantom Menace. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, wasn't it about 2 weeks before that movie came out when they dropped those first waves of figures on us?
No, it was actually much earlier.
Was it a month or so, maybe?
Much earlier. They did in September. They would do this every September before a Star Wars movie came out. They would do the Force Fridays. They used to do them at Toys R Us. They called them Force Friday. And it was like you'd have people lining up before midnight when they would reopen the store with so they'd close the store, reopen it. They did it at Target. They did it for The Force Awakens, but after that, it just was not a successful event. I think people's interest.
Well, right after that was Godzilla. And I remember that was when they did hold the toys back until the last minute because they didn't want it getting leaked out what Godzilla looked like.
I mean, the fact that there are Toys R Us is a chain, went out of business, and Target has like a healthy toy section, right? But it's really basically a pivot towards less, physical in real world toys and more towards digital, because I don't think you can even see any like physical in world, real life toys that don't have some mobile game component or virtual world aspect to it, or augmented reality where you scan a QR code that's on the box. I'm certain the Little Mermaid has a QR code on that box that takes you to something to, you get a song or whatever. But like, that's really what's happened we could do a whole stream just on the toy arena.
Well, and you're not wrong. Target does actually have kind of the market cornered on toys right now, aside from, Walmart still has a section, but what Target has of a bigger section than Walmart does is the adult toy section. And I don't mean like adult toys like naughty toys. No, I mean like the collectibles.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is that just having spoken to friends of mine who work at like Hasbro and in the toy business, they've just said like the market has shrunk. Kids are more interested in screens. And I think that's, I think it's sad, but the whole thing they used to do, you can even Google image Force Fridays. You will see a ton of images of, they would decorate the store. They would get, they would try to basically manufacture excitement over this stuff. But really after The Force Awakens, that was not an event thing. I remember I went to that Force Friday for Force Awakens, looking at everything. Myself, I was not very excited. I don't think I bought a single thing. And I just was like, well, interesting to look at that stuff, but I'm going to take a pass on it. So
I think I grabbed some of the original characters at that time, but I don't remember getting any of the 3 3/4 inch line or anything like that.
Right,
but
right. Well, the quality dropped dramatically when Disney took over the toy line. I mean, it just like all of it just seems to be garbage, in my opinion. It's just not high quality. That's the one thing when Lucas owned, Lucasfilm. The quality of the toys, I feel like he knew that market. And you'll see quotes. There's video of George Lucas from the early 70s saying he's more of a toy maker than a filmmaker.
Well, that's kind of what Return of the Jedi became, was a commercial for toys.
Effectively, which is why he, held on to those toy rights. They thought he was crazy. He basically forfeited a good chunk of what he was to be paid for Star Wars to hang on to the sequels and the toy rights. And 20th Century Fox was, sure. And then of course he turned out to be really smart. And then it
everything. What's his face from Fox ended up quitting / getting fired over Empire Strikes Back. Alan Ladd, wasn't it?
I don't know if he was fired because of that. There is a good documentary that's on YouTube called Laddie.
Well, he claimed it, I believe. I don't know. I haven't seen Laddie yet, but you haven't mentioned that. I think it was him who made, because he's the one who made the deal with George originally, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he fought for Star Wars. I mean, he protected.
Yeah. But here was the thing: is after it was a success, he was like, "You guys didn't even want this in the first place, and now you're gonna fire me over it because we don't have the toy and the sequel rights." Basically, is what it boiled down to, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, perhaps, but yeah, toys have become more a piece of marketing than a profit center when it comes to intellectual property. It really is like a way to advertise it. But the market of kids who buy these things, it's more like they're collector parents. And by parents, I mean dads for the most part. It's dads for the most part, that were into those toys and kind of want to pass on that to their kids. And they're not as into it. They're more into video games, stuff on screens, etc. Which is, I'm telling you, next time you're in the toy aisle at a Target, just look at the packaging on the toys. There's always a screen component for toys. So it's just interesting to see how the market has changed so dramatically, to kids going in their backyards and playing with toys and whatnot, to being mesmerized by a black mirror, and which is reprogramming children's brains. I'm not getting too dark here, am I?
Just a little, but that's all right.
A little, but the other part you're missing out is that when was the last time you saw a kid on a bicycle?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, for sure.
Not unless they're a real little kid anymore, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean,
or have a paper route.
I remember for children is that it was really big deal for them to get a bicycle, whether it had training wheels or not. And then once they got old enough to get another one, that's what you'd get. But that aspect is not gone, because I've gone to various shops where you would get bicycles and they're still pretty expensive. But I remember back as a teenager, finding a bike was difficult because everybody would buy, they'd be out of stock or they'd be limited. And nowadays there's so many, you don't know which one to choose. And they're desperate to try and get rid of them because sadly you don't see as many people riding bikes these days anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Well, anyway, so basically look out for those advertorials. We got Salvador Cruz here who says, "Hi, hope your day is going well. It's night here." Well, good night to you in Australia, but good morning to everybody here in the U.S. We've got member chat from Hyperguyver, who's been here for 8 months. Says, "Thank you, Disney, for proving how racist you are by recasting Moana, all because she's not Polynesian enough. Hope you plan on recasting The Rock, too." Oh, no, they won't. They'll have him in there.
Wait, isn't she a little too old to play Moana now?
Yeah, I don't know about that
28.
part.
Isn't Moana supposed to be like a teenager?
Yeah, she still looks really very young. So it can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the face she does. I've seen long lens shots of her, so to speak, and she does not look like a teenager. She looks very well developed for a young 14-year-old girl.
I'm more upset that Ving Rhames ain't playing Bubbles in the live action Lilo and Stitch. I'm like, how do you not?
Yeah.
It's just like, duh. He looks just like the character still. I think that's the point I was getting to, is that does she still look like the character, or did she ever? Right? Like
she was pretty, there was a pretty decent comparison there. Like I said, I think
but Moana's like what, a 7-8-year-old girl or something like that in the story? How old is she?
She's early teens, is my understanding.
Is she?
12 and 14.
I don't know, it's been like 10 years since I've seen it.
And yeah, it was 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, she probably would have been perfect for a live action version. I don't think now she could play Moana's, older sister, or maybe mom in a prequel. I don't know.
Yeah, or some background character, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, it's it's silly. Regardless, I mean they de-aged Harrison Ford. Why don't you?
I don't see nobody bitching about Tia Carrere or whatever not playing the what's her face sister in Lilo and Stitch either.
Yeah, I mean, there you go.
They could probably get.
I mean, I think she's Filipino, but still, or Korean or whatever. But yeah, anyway, no, I think that whole thing's silly to begin with. So I'm not surprised, but they will not recast The Rock. He will be the only one who will probably be the main.
I'm gonna just say this: there's reportedly rumored to be issues between Disney and The Rock right now, but
there's rumors between The Rock and everybody.
I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, he's got a little bit of that early 2000s wrestling, pro wrestling mentality when it comes to entertainment. He's not the same as with regards to other actors that were in athletic fields that crossed over. He's got the center of attention issue that a lot of actors have, but he can point to the fact that he made it in another industry first to justify that.
I agree with that, but he was
sorry,
also...
carry on.
Oh no, I was saying he was also supposedly involved in an illegal distribution system that allowed people to view copyrighted material via...
There's some shit that's hovering around him right now, but you were going to say something, Andre, about him.
Yeah, sorry, Andre.
No worries. No, just that if there's issues between The Rock and Disney, which results in him not being in the movie, that's an issue, because honestly, the whole point with making that movie is to have the two of them, who are still of the appropriate age, to reprise their respective roles. Losing Moana herself, especially for that reason, that's some BS.
Well, just as a talent, I mean, she's an executive producer, so she's going to get some money out of it. She's going to be on the promotion stuff. Who knows? She might even be in the movie in some other character capacity.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah.
Not there. Listen, this is par for the course with Disney whenever they're doing any adaptations, and some of the actors have aged out of the role. They'll bring them back in stunt casting to play other roles. That's just Hollywood. That's how it works.
Yeah. And if it's true that Rock is having some issues with Disney corporate, that means he's also having issues with Warner Brothers corporate. So he's not in a good spot right now. No, didn't he show back up in the new recent Fast and Furious movie too?
There was a weird cameo that he wasn't supposed to be a part of, from what I'm to understand. But I saw the film, did not see him in it, but I left before the mid-credit baloney sausage. So,
well, if he is, then that's him trying to weasel his way back in, because I know him and Vin Diesel did not get along afterwards. And maybe he is feeling the walls close in on him a little bit. Because as we've pointed out before, and I've been the one to champion it most, he is not a big a deal as people like to think he is, especially him.
You know what? We can do this all day, Tom. You and I have said 1,000 times, he's a great ensemble cast member.
But he has not. The fact that Black Adam is his highest grossing solo starring film should tell you something. And that movie is considered a failure.
Very much so, yes. The other part too, and I saw someone on Twitter say this a few weeks ago, is that comparatively to, say, someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Rock never sought out creatives on the production side of thing that would be part of a team player. The Rock set out people that would work for him, as opposed to Arnold, who's like, oh, how can I work with you? And that's why Arnold blew up in the 80s and 90s, and The Rock never made it beyond The Rock, so to speak.
Yeah, I think he's kind of over the chance of ever being bigger than he is, to be honest with you. But I could be wrong. You never know.
Well, the weird thing about the industry is that you attach The Rock to a project, it will most likely go the distance and get produced and released. The problem is that it never performs very well. So you have this kind of catch-22 aspect where, yeah, you can get your movie made, but you're not going to see the return that you really want as a result. I mean, The Rock did Rampage, Baywatch, and I think those like the ones that are kind of like the solo, more independent stories. Baywatch is argued to a degree an ensemble, but it was Jumanji is the biggest thing that he's been a part of that is not him centric to the story, because you have Jack Black and Karen Gillan is there as well.
Yeah, no, unless you stick him in a franchise like that, he generally doesn't have as much luck. Psychotic says, remember the rumor that KK had to fix the Indy ending or else? Any more news on that one? Disney is burning, and I will dance in the ashes they sow and reap. Look, I think it was pretty well confirmed by John Williams. As much as they wanted to sidestep and say, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about, I'm pretty sure John Williams knows what he's talking about. He doesn't work a lot right now. I mean, he's old. He's very old.
Exactly. When he's called back to score a movie, he's generally aware of it.
And I mean, he's pretty lucid in his explanation of after this, I got to go do this, and I got to go back and do redo the ending for Indiana Jones because they reshot that. That's exactly what he said, pretty much in so many words. And then I almost said Kasdan, Mangold and Frankie pushed back a little bit on that, Frankie being Frank Marshall, but they still never said they didn't. They just said that he's mistaken and all this other things, and then they changed the story 3 times in the same thread. It's like, well, so does he know or doesn't he know? Because if he doesn't know, then he's, according to him, there is a new ending. And I've heard there's 3 different endings. There's the one we got, there's the one where Indy dies, and then there's the one where she dies, I guess, or something like that. There was 3 different endings, and this one is the more happier of the 3 that we ended up with.
I guess the one person who wasn't quite happy with it is probably Kathleen Kennedy, who was obviously hoping to, yes, this is where we're going to make myself insert Fleabag, the new Indiana Jones, for the Disney Plus series.
And unless I read it wrong, this ending actually kind of leaves it ambiguous as to what happened to her, but I have to go back and check again. I can't remember now. Because there was 3 convolutions, and because I read the other endings too, so I can't remember. It was late. Like, I was like mixing them together probably. Anyway, Dr. Long Dongler sent us a super sticker. I'm willing to bet it's a thumbs up. If you haven't hit a thumbs up yet, please do. And hopefully everybody has got their coffee this morning, because we're going to talk some Disney news here in just a second. Strike, 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 burn Hollywood down. Says, but the woke wankers told me Willow wasn't canceled. So what he's talking about here, and this is partially why I said Kasdan, what was it, Lawrence Kasdan? Is that the one, or which one?
John, right? John
Jr. One of the untalented son of Larry.
Yeah,
Kasdan.
Whichever one it was that's connected with Willow. It was like, well, it's not exactly canceled, blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, they're pulling it off of the stream. So
yeah,
let's use that to just get into the main topics of today, the thumbnail topic. But Cultured, you were saying.
No, I was just going to say, that, like I said, you're going to take, a successful project that you've been touting for a while and everybody was fawning over, and completely get rid of it from the face of the planet, never to return. That's how successful it was. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, that was all.
Yeah. No, to remember.
Yeah, it was absolutely cruel to remove it. We'll get to that.
Yeah, so cruel. But the thing that stands out to me with it, because let's get into that, is that this was done while Kathleen Kennedy was attending the Indiana Jones premiere, just like Chapek was taken out back in shot while attending Elton John concert. And you've had like other examples of this in the past as well. Like just when these people, these executives are out celebrating and they're supposed to be happy and have a good time, that's when all this stunt is pulled. That's some interesting Disney culture for you right there. Chris, just before we get into the story itself here, what do you think about that kind of timing and that kind of way of conducting business, of like sneaking bad news across to people it needs to be hidden from until it's too late?
That's typical Disney. So it's typical corporate behavior. So nothing about that is surprising to me.
Actually, I would argue it might be worse timing than ever, because at Cannes, on her way out, she has more of a chance of getting ambushed by the press and getting asked this without having any freaking clue about what's going on, if she didn't know this was going down ahead of time, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's why I thought the timing of it was funny. See, because when they pulled Bob Chapek out of Elton John, they physically took him out of the concert, told him, and then he's, exited. Like, this happened while she was in the screening. So I don't know if anybody caught her on the carpet afterwards or not. She probably didn't. She probably darted out the back because somebody probably told her.
Yep.
But it wasn't just Willow that was pulled down. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that what a horrible strategy to premiere this movie at Cannes, where they thought the film would be lauded, applauded. I mean, Harrison Ford got a longer standing ovation for just being Harrison Ford than the movie got. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's comedy clearly did not translate to an international audience. And to be clear, like, my movie was actually at Cannes at the Market. Pretty much the Cannes Film Festival and Market, which takes place at the same time, is a place where international films launch in the European market. So you're trying to sell movies into Europe. You're trying to promote movies to European countries and whatnot. Big movies will premiere there. But generally what you do is they premiere there and then they'll open sometime in the fall or shortly thereafter. But for there to be more than a month between when the Indiana Jones film, Indy 5, Dial of Destiny premieres and it playing in theaters. By the way, tickets are on sale today for Indiana Jones. And guess what? I checked. Normally for a big movie, you'd be like, oh my gosh, as soon as I get the notification, the screenings are sold out. They were plentiful. I got tickets, but I had an easy time getting tickets. I was kind of surprised. So what a terrible strategy to have the film come out. I think they thought it was going to be well reviewed or at least get mostly positive notices. And the opposite is true. It's mixed to negative. I don't think I've read a positive review of Indy 5. So terrible strategy to use Cannes. They thought, using the star power of Harrison Ford, that they could open there and they would get like a big bump from that, but it's turned into a negative. And it's I'm told that the parts of the movie that have Harrison Ford and the deep fake he looks kind of, it's like dead-eyed, like it's not a person, it's an actor in a younger body with Harrison Ford's younger face mapped onto it. I still think that is 100% not there. If you're going to use it, I mean, for brief scenes, maybe. It never worked in Rogue One for me with Tarkin. I thought that was awful. Or Leia. I didn't like.
It was horrible for Leia.
I can explain the problem there. That's Disney using their own proprietary Lucas, like their own proprietary de-aging technology, as opposed to just plain old deep faking, which looks better.
Yes.
But they bought that recently. They bought the deep fake guy who works for Disney now, and that's apparently what they used on this latest Indiana Jones.
Give him the resources to do this and do this properly then.
Yeah, well, in any case, I'm just saying strategically terrible decision. The better decision would have been to open it at Cannes and 1 week later have the movie open. Now you've got the movie premieres at Cannes, tickets are on sale. I guarantee it's going to be soft sales, because the fact that I could look at the prime IMAX screening at 6:30 p.m. at the AMC Burbank 16, one of the most profitable theaters in America, by the way, in the heart of the film industry, and the fact that there were plenty of seats, that's crazy. That does not happen. So kind of weird, but really poor strategy, and just maybe perhaps a lot of hubris on their part to think that they were going to get a bump and ride it all the way to June 30th, which is effectively 4th of July weekend in the United States. Although 4th of July falls on like a Tuesday, it's weird. It's fine. But I don't know. What a terrible, terrible error. And like, look, I mean, Marvel movies, are Marvel movies opening at Cannes? No, it's weird. I just think somebody did not think this all the way through. So,
well, here's the article where Kasdan was talking about being optimistic for a season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very funny. I went out and grabbed every single article that I could, and then screen grabbed them all.
In case they disappeared.
Yeah, because there was so much weirdness. And again, even Willow, and this is a larger point to how poorly things are, done at Lucasfilm. Even Willow wasn't without multiple directors, multiple writers. I mean, it wasn't settled at the very beginning who was going to be involved in the production of the thing. And, it turned out to be the dumpster fire everybody thought it would be. And,
right.
It's the same situation with this. I mean, James Mangold wasn't the first choice. And, this is a history of very bad choices being made inside of Lucasfilm. And you can only point to one consistent thread there, and this may have been we're going to take you behind the woodshed, and maybe talk to you right before something bad happens, because I think that's kind of what this was. I mean, Chris, you made a great point. You don't take a Marvel movie to Cannes.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Probably don't need to, but I don't know that the Marvel movies have like the heat that would excite the Cannes audience. The Cannes is Europe. That's what the festival represents, is the European film market is Cannes, right? So and any film can be in the market. If I could just explain what the film market is, because my movie is there. I've had other movies at the Cannes film market. The Cannes film market is where you sell a film to other markets, right? So you've got people there at a booth. There's posters everywhere. They've got a television, a big screen, like playing, a loop of trailers for movies that they represent, and they sell them to countries. So Spain wants to buy Attack of the Dock. They'll spend, 15, 20 grand for all rights for 3 years for the territory of Spain, meaning they can resell it on video on demand services in Spain or television. They own the rights and they can resell it, put it out on Blu-ray. They can put it out theatrical. Okay. And then you sell to as many international markets as possible, small indie movies. I will say this, as a filmmaker, having been to the Cannes film market, it's a horrific experience. It's basically seeing how the sausage is made, because movies are devolved to their to basically product, right? So you go there, and a film is so you've got the festival itself, which is very elitist and very highbrow art, celebrating the art of cinema, and then you've got the market, which is like it's basically like a bunch of it's like seeing prostitution happening live, right? It's like, I love a delicious cheeseburger. I love cheeseburgers. I don't know what to say. I eat them several times a week, but I don't want to go to the butcher shop where they carve up the meat, grind bones, and like make a patty, right? Like that's what my experience of going to the Cannes film market was like. Like, as a person who loves cinema, it's like seeing like, oh my God, it's just, there's a bunch of pimps here just selling this stuff, and it's nothing. It doesn't matter. It's like, and we'll package this library for that territory and all this. So it's really like someone who just loves movies, it's a horrible experience to go to a film market. I also go to AFM, which is the American film market in Santa Monica, California. And that's a whole other experience, but a film market and the festival happen hand in hand. And it's funny, the two events could not be more opposite from each other, but wow, did Disney blow it strategically by opening the film this soon. Tons of the top critics who are on Rotten Tomatoes have reviewed the film now, and I don't know what the rating is. I think the lowest it dipped was 33%. My guess is it'll come a little higher. I bet the audience score is a little higher. Probably more average on the average to low end, but it's going to kill this movie. The word of mouth is bad already, and the fact that I was able to get tickets with no problem whatsoever says something.
Yeah. Also, I read some of these reviews, and you know what they remind me of? They remind me of the reviews for Rings of Power, in a sense, with a difference. And that is that the Rings of Power reviews, they were all very measured positive, but they actually read as negative.
See, I made that. Oh, sorry, Andre, continue.
Yeah. No, I was mostly done. And I see like the same thing here. The reviews that I flicked through, even the positive ones, they read as something mostly negative. And the negative ones, they flat out read as negative. And what was interesting is that the things that they didn't like were fundamental structural things that no one is going to like, because it's very easy to say, oh, it's woke, so all the reviewers are going to love it, and then we will hate it, or vice versa. Like, we hear something that's unwoke. This isn't the case at all. These are like legit structural complaints. 35% now. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that's bad. No, what I was going to say, Andre, is I made that point, but I also pointed out the difference between the Rings of Power and Indiana Jones was they were hedging things early for Rings of Power because it was a TV series.
Yeah.
So, like, by the end, you read those final reviews, they're scathing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, like, in this sense, you've got a situation where, yeah, I'm starting to, because a lot of people have brought up the point, why would you trust the critics now? You've never trusted them before. It's not so much we trust the critics, it's that what Andre's saying is we know they can't hide it anymore, right? This isn't a movie where they know they've got another one to come out afterwards, so they don't have any incentive to give it a good review. Because what's Kathy and Disney going to say? Oh, we're going to strike you from going to see the next one if you don't give this one a good review. So effing what? Because there isn't going to be a next one.
Yeah.
So it's not like Star Wars and Marvel where they're, predisposed to give it a good review up front, because otherwise they're going to get their access cut off.
Well, also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off, Culture. I just want to say, also what they're going to say, like, oh, if you don't give this a positive review, we're not going to give you the opportunity to see our next big movie, The Marvels. You want to miss out on that? And then you're going to be in a position to have to give that one a positive review. Maybe they're better off just giving a negative.
I don't even think they made that threat, Andre, because the simple matter is, how much you want to bet between now and then, we'll find out then, they'll end up embargoing those reviews for that movie. There's no effing way they're going to allow early reviews of the Marvels. This was a mistake. This is going back to what Chris was saying. I think Disney and Lucasfilm specifically thought they had a winner on their hands.
I think so too.
Why else wouldn't they?
Exactly.
Why would they not think there would be a winner? Like, they didn't. Robert Meyer Burnett is true when he says this, and I agree with it. No one in Hollywood really intentionally tries to make a bad movie. Maybe Asylum, but mostly nobody in Hollywood.
Well, the reason I bring it up, Script, is because they've been getting so many positive buzz inside on it, because they've shown it to a lot of internal people. But basically, these are ass kissers, is what I was going to get to. Well, so they took the false, praise from people who wouldn't tell them the truth anyway.
But that's also like 90% of Hollywood. That's how you maintain your employment over there. The other part to also consider is that one of the predications for being a critic is that you're able to get early access to films, write your reviews, and get them out first so that you get more people to click on your website. Boom. So it's in the best interest for every single critic to try and get access to any movies that they can. In this case here, the fact that they're being let's hypothetically assume they're being honest, that they actually don't like this movie or what have you, and they're doing this knowing that Disney won't let them come to the next early parts too, seems kind of antithetical to their career, unless they know beforehand that a majority of these Disney films that they're going to be reviewing for the following year are going to be under an embargo, which means they can't publish early, which means they can't get people to come to their websites to read their stuff, which means they're not making money off those reviews. And therefore, what's the point?
And you're right. That feeds right into the theory that I wanted to introduce, which is all of these rags, these trade rags, they all are suffering. The writers' strike is going to hurt them very, very badly. You have these critics; they absolutely need as many clicks, as they can to maintain any kind of relevance. They're gonna have to tell the truth for a little while, because their credibility has been so shredded over the course of the last, let's say, 6 to 8 years, that there's not a whole lot of trust there. So to rebuild that trust, they have to tell the truth. We've had that conversation multiple times, but they're going to be even more desperate, because not only that, the ad click dollars are disappearing. Ad tech is falling into the ocean. It's bad. So you're going to have PMC let somebody off the chain every once in a while, and one of their trades tell the freaking truth about these things. Because I'll keep mentioning PMC owns everything except for the wrap. And the wrap is a dyed in the wool shill trade. But anyway, there.
Well, and this just to finish up the Willow business before we don't get too far into Indiana Jones, because that's also a big part of today's story. This is the response from one of the writers, who said it's absolutely cruel, but to spend redacted amount on a show and then disappear it 6 months later, it's just bad business.
Not if it
Now,
sucked. Sorry to interrupt, but not if the show's terrible.
no, I'm not going to disagree with you, Script. And part of me is like, yeah, good. None of these shows were any good outside of maybe Turner and Hooch in the first season of Mighty Ducks. Those are the only two, because you've given Turner and Hooch a good review, which if you like something says a lot. And I saw the first season of Mighty Ducks, and I can say it was actually watchable. But other than that, I tried watching Willow, and all these other shows are mostly reality shows that are getting shit canned or behind the scenes features, right? Like the Empower thing from last fall or whatever it was one of the things that got axed. But nothing of any real value got axed.
No.
Of course, the Marvels didn't get axed, which is the lowest rated series in the Marvel side of things. But no, that strategically has to stay on there. This is one time I'm kind of torn, because at the same time, I don't agree with making things unavailable. And I may not like these things, but if they actually write these down, then that means they cannot be released ever again. They will be lost to the annals of time. Because part of this is they could be pulling them down so they could be sending them off to networks or Netflix or one of these other places. But from my understanding, because I did the research, if they do the write down to save the $1.5 to $1.8 billion in tax write-offs, these things will never see the light of day again. They can't. So that means they'll never get a video release either. So the people that are griping about this, they're actually right. They're in the right. Even though we may not agree with them most of the time, I got to give them this one, that they're right. You're never going to get Willow on Blu-ray.
I will say one thing, though, because the guy said, what kind of business model is it to spend so much money, a redacted amount, and then just dump it? Well, actually, the point where it was poor business model was making
dumping it in the first place.
That's where the poor business decision was. Not in dumping it after the fact, but in making it in the first place. And then I don't necessarily mean to the decision to make a Willow sequel series. Nothing wrong in that decision. That could have been a perfectly fine. I mean, that could have been like a Cobra Kai if they went for it. They could have made something really special there. But no, my understanding, I never watched this, but my understanding from the reviews I heard is basically it's about like two lesbian knights and their misadventures, and it guest stars Willow in a few episodes.
Pretty much from what I saw. I didn't watch it all. I got far enough for them to bash on Val Kilmer, and that was about it.
No, I watched it all. Willow's in every episode, pretty much. He's featured prominently in them all. He's dealing with imposter syndrome of sorts based on the legend, but it does have literally takes the concept of how Ray and Michael Burnham are the key to everything and articulate it effectively and make that Laura Dan in this. As well. They talk about her and how she's the key to everything all the time. It's not as engaging as how it was done in the actual Willow part. But the thing that's most egregious, aside from the fact that they're trying to erase this from existence, is the fact that a lot of the people that worked on this can't cite it as a credit for either getting future work or being a cautionary tale not to hire them again. So it's very unfair. However, this will exist on the internet in some various forms.
Oh, absolutely.
People will be able to see it through whatever means they usually have. I mean, like I just got a text from my friend of mine on Friday morning saying like he just saw the Wonder Woman pilot from like over a decade ago because he downloaded it online.
It's been around for a while.
Show, yeah. So it'll still be out there. People will still be able to find it if they search hard enough.
No, but I would be a hypocrite, Script, if I didn't, because I do say that about everything. You know, I want an official release of Star Wars, for instance, the original films. You know, so I've been on these crusades for years, so I can't not support them in this complaint because this is true. And a lot of this stuff wasn't exactly given all the they haven't been given a lot of time to really do this, because I don't even know if it's still on there. I don't know if they pulled them that night or if they're coming off at a certain point here. I didn't even do that part of the research, but you know, there's a lot of people that are griping it shouldn't be up to internet archivists to make sure this stuff stays around. It's like, well, that's the wonders of streaming though, isn't it? So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. We always knew this was a problem. And I tried to warn people, and several other people have too. Even when you're buying movies digitally on Amazon or Vudu or even Apple, you're not buying them. It's in quotations. It's a rental. You're basically a long-term rental is what it is. It'll disappear anytime.
Yeah, I think that eventually is going to end up in a lawsuit because there's going to be some collector somewhere.
They already did, and she lost, the one lady that tried to sue Amazon. I don't know if you recall that.
I do, but I like I said, if that becomes more prevalent, I think you're going to end up with that running up to the Supreme Court because they essentially say the word buy when they don't mean buy, and that's
part of their contract and advertisement. So yes, you're right.
Yeah, so I have a feeling, that the attorney missed the argument or they filed in the wrong place. But I strongly suspect that's going to not work in the future.
Well, it's not. It was because in there was the small print of we have the right, or the companies and owners of said property have the right to remove anything at any time without any notice.
Except that, again, you are misleading the consumer with the concept of buy, which is a very straightforward word. Like I said, I know what you're saying, Tom, and I agree with you.
And I agree.
That did happen, but I don't think that's going to stand up very long because there will be enough irritated people with something big disappears that they supposedly bought that they will lose their mind over. So,
And according to Six and Script, I think these are on until September anyway. So, I mean, Internet Archivists have some time, but it's just, who wants to download Willow?
I think that's a bigger issue, to be honest, because like that thing right there, obviously it's been out there on the high seas since the day of its release. But honestly, I think that you're going to have a hard time finding it, even if you wanted to download it, because there's so few that's going to share it.
That is a problem.
Because nobody cares. Like literally, it had no audience. Nobody cares.
And I think that's even more telling because they're just reinforcing everything that we've said, which is they're creating valueless content. And look, I mean, Chris was talking about you don't want to see how the sausage is made at these film markets because it's a commodity, it's a product. Well, that's what Disney's reduced all of these classic IPs to. Products. Now, they're no longer valued. They've reduced the value, and they turned Willow from a film property. I think a lot of people here on this panel have mentioned this. They turned it from a film property to a television show on a streaming service behind a paywall, and that's it just redefines things in the most negative light. And they've been doing this for a long time. But you can't argue that anything at Lucasfilm has been good in a very long time because it hasn't been, and this is just another example.
Well, you're absolutely right, Culture. This is what all corporations do, right? It's ultimately a product made to make money or made to fulfill an agenda. Of late, money has been less a concern, which is weird for Hollywood to act that way. And I remember a weird, sick feeling in the pit of my stomach when I realized what the Cannes film market was. And it was just, everything's just evolved to a product. It doesn't matter. You would see knockoffs of movies. You would discover that certain actors internationally are huge, that barely a blip in the United States. And it was just shocking. It's weird. The international film market is weird, which is why like movies like Fast X, which did okay this weekend in the United States, did gangbusters business international.
Yeah, it did about 70% roughly of its business overseas or more, actually.
Which it always does. So yeah, Chris, you're right.
Yeah, actually, my point was even more so this time.
Oh yeah,
because this was a soft opening in the U.S., but it did very well outside the U.S. So actually, it was probably closer to. Well, let's see, I think it's closer to 80, somewhere in the plus 70% anyway. I would say compared to normal.
And I mean, it opened domestically to 67.5 million and over 320 million global.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. So I'd have to do the fuzzy math in my head, but yeah, I'm not good at fuzzy math. But let's get into some super chats here before we get into the High Republic news. Mr. Tickle Trunk says, being that Disney hires directors like actors, tying a hand behind their backs, is directing for Disney just a detriment to one's career right now? Well, we've had these conversations before where there's actually been creatives who have flat out said they don't want to work for Lucasfilm specifically anyway. And some have even talked about how Marvel works over there. So Script, from your point of view, from the writing standpoint, what's been what's the feedback that you've kind of gathered from working for Disney or anybody who wants to work for Disney?
Well, in my tenure as a as a screenwriter, the first thing I noticed is that when I was starting out, everybody wanted to work for Disney because it was considered the best company to work for. That was mostly due to political ideology, not the actual process, because with Disney, they don't make original stuff. Everything they do is assignment based on the IP that they own. They don't really have Touchstone anymore. They don't really have any third or a fourth subsidiary company where they can do original interesting films. So if you're going to be working for Disney, you're only going to be doing what they want, which means you are very creatively restricted, and you're basically a glorified puppet. Converse that with Warner Brothers, which they loved doing original stuff. I mean, there's a reason for 50 years Warner Brothers was considered the artist's studio. And to a degree, there still kind of are. We'll see what happens over the next couple of years with Zaslav running things. But yeah, for Disney, no, you don't really want to work there unless you can find some avenue where that credit will be a stepping stone to another job elsewhere. But the way that they've been running things and nixing creativity in the production process seems to make it a bad calling card, meaning that you get a Disney thing which might be very lucrative, but the end result, because it has been so mangled by some of the powers that be, it's not a very good piece on your resume because it either performs poorly or it gives the illusion that the skills that you might end up having are lesser than what they actually are.
Yeah, case in point, how many of the MCU directors, even those of really huge movies, have gone on to have illustrious careers outside of Marvel that are not named James Gunn or Taika Waititi?
Kenneth Branagh still has a pretty solid career.
He had a huge career before.
Exactly,
People,
that's
the
the
people that
part.
started out, like for instance, Sam Raimi did Doctor Strange do any wonders for his career? I mean, it's early to tell, but for instance, a Game of Thrones guy, he was fairly hot after Game of Thrones, and then he did Thor: The Dark World. What has he done since?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
or the makers of Captain Marvel.
If you're talking about like directors or creatives that have come out of Marvel as a byproduct, no, there hasn't been any. Even you can even argue with James Gunn. He was having a career because one, he was working in television. He worked at Troma. He did the specials. He did Slither. He did Tromeo and Juliet. He also worked on Scooby Doo. And he also rewrote the hit Dawn of the Dead remake that did well. Like he was a name. He was not huge tier, but he had enough of a career established already that he could actually continue to work in the independent sphere or the smaller movie budget sphere and live comfortably for quite a while. He exploded as a result of his own talent and the free reign he was given for Guardians of the Galaxy. But no, there hasn't been anyone else out there. The Russo brothers are almost forgotten because Citadel has done very, very poorly.
And they directed two of the biggest movies of all time.
Exactly. But what we're seeing here is that sometimes people who have a fairly good work ethic, but not necessarily the best of talent or creative imagination, can be quite emboldened by what was once the Marvel strategy of formulaic distribution and filmmaking for their films. They had a formula, they had beats that they had to hit. And if you're competent enough to hit those beats and know how to play around with the emotions for those beats, you can make a good movie. But once they started abandoning parts of that formula and then just bringing people in here to sort of like plug and play these characters into these generic stories that are missing a little bit of motivation, missing a lot of stakes, and missing a lot of effort in production and post, you end up having, a brand that is really just in name only and not the substance with which it was made.
Well, thank you for that, Script Doctor, and hopefully you got your 550 Canadian worth there, Mr. Tickledrunk.
Well, there's only one more point I can add to that,
sure,
and that is, where's the next generation of pivotal filmmakers that are going to carry us into the future? We still have people lauding George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, but they've been in the industry for 55, 60 years, and to a point, you could argue they are also some of the key players that have been kind of nudging some of those that would take their throne away from them so that they would be pushed off more and more so they could hold on to the power and influence that they have. So where's the next generation to challenge them and do something? And is there any sort of money that can be accessed for these guys and girls to take that lead forward in the future? That's the question that's going to be needed to be answered in the next few years.
I think a big part of it is gatekeeping, and also just this. We haven't had an independent revolution in so long. I don't know what's getting in the way of it. Normally, a movement like this, a political movement, would foster something like that. In fact, we're milling a story that's kind of related to our ESG stuff that has to do with how much of a time period we're in right now is reflective of the late 60s and early 70s, yet for some reason out of that era, the political movement had a lot of good creation or interesting creation or something to say at least. And now I'm not so sure that they have that here. I mean, of course, that goes back to this being a very manufactured movement to begin with. But I don't know if that makes sense to you guys at all. But I know Andre probably knows what I'm talking about because we were talking about it this morning. But I know that's probably kind of like you guys are kind of a little lost there. But no, like if you go back and look at that time period, we've got a video about this that we're working on in the background that I think will make a lot more sense. But I think the biggest problem is we just don't have the voices coming out, whether it's gatekeeping or because it can't be lack of being able to do it. Because right now it's easier to make a movie than it ever was before.
But it could also be the streaming, because many movies. It's easier to make a movie, but which movie? And the movies that have suffered the most, and this is something that Mr. Gore can certainly add to, are kind of like the mid-tier budget movies, where you could do something interesting. Much of that right now is instead being replaced by series on streaming, because like the market is kind of like not supporting that right now in Hollywood. And streamers, well, for something like that, they want a series rather than like a movie. So those kind of movies, the market simply isn't there for them right now in this moment. And because of that, I think there's a whole generation of filmmakers. You guys wondered, like, where are the filmmakers? You know where I think they are? Those who otherwise would have been filmmakers, taking us to the next generation. I think they're on YouTube. I think they're on TikTok. You have doing like amazing videos and like shorts and stunts and stuff like that there, because the opportunities that they would have had in the 70s, for instance, they're not there now.
Well, Hollywood's the land of recreation, right? I mean, let's just be fair. The idea is to reinvent yourself. Well, Hollywood used to reinvent itself about every 20 years or so. They haven't done that because I think they stopped the wheel. The wheel of progress stopped, and that's why we have no directors that we think are going to be the next generation. We don't see them because they've been gate kept out. Same thing with writers, actors. You're being gate kept out because if you don't buy into the ideology right away, or you're not part of it, that's why people calling out nepotism and other things like that has become more prevalent. I'm just saying, I mean, they've essentially stopped it through gatekeeping. They've stopped the progress in Hollywood. They've stopped the new voices coming in. And Andre, I think you're 100% right. The creators and the people that are going to go forward as far as this kind of cultural video presentation, I think those are all going to be coming out of YouTube. I think that's very astute. I think it's accurate.
Well, the gatekeeping model that Hollywood had prior to the ideology stuff was the same type of gatekeeping model that happens on YouTube, which means that you have to make yourself valuable to earn the audience you have in order to be popular and successful and make it. And that's how Hollywood operated, is that you make a short film, it travels well, you make another one, it does well, and you gain the attention of the people in the studio system to give you a shot. That's why and I wrote an article on this last week on my Patreon about it is easier than ever to make a movie. The thing is, what do you make to get the most attention? If you make a feature film your first time out and you've never made a feature film before, you're wasting your time. And a lot of people do that. And the method to impress Hollywood is not with feature films on the indie circuit as your earlier outings. It's with short films so that you gain confidence in people that watch your work so that they are willing to invest in you to make that larger feature film.
If I may, Script, like it used to be, the avenue would be through commercials and then music videos used to be the way you'd get in. And And
well, that's on the production side of thing, not so
yeah.
much on the writing
Well,
side.
even directors, like a lot of directors that we had come into the 80s were coming out of music videos, right? Michael Bay is the prime example. He started in music videos. Tony Scott also did a lot of music videos first. There's another one I'm trying to think of offhand. The guy who directed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles famously directed music videos and shit like that too. So like, yeah, it used to be the way it would be, and you would kind of get in through that avenue, or you do independent films like Tarantino and stuff would. But normally even those guys would have, like you just said, they would start with short films or other projects, and then they would sell something, and then they would use that money or whatever to make something of their own. Usually is the case, something along those lines.
Collateral. So they'd be like, oh, you made a short film, it works well. I can trust you. I can invest in you on a feature film. Heck, Reservoir Dogs originally was a short film.
Right.
And that garnered for the feature.
And it was also written to be a possible play if it had to be as well. That's the other thing, is if you can make your project more than just one thing. But anyway, that's a pretty long.
And in the early 2000s, a lot of writers were told, make it a comic book first, and then we'll buy it, and then we'll make it into a movie. And that hurt not just the comic book industry, but also the film industry as a result. Yeah.
And then let's keep moving here, because we got a couple more super chats I want to get through until we get to the next topic here and start losing panelists. We got Zontar, who says Palo shatters Indianapolis 500 qualifying record by 0.250 miles per hour. VK comes in at 0.004 miles per hour behind him. That's a quarter blink of an eye over a 10-mile run. Wow. I wish I was more of a racing fan. I might find that more exciting. Thank you, Zontar. We appreciate that. And then we got Mr. Tickle Trunk, who says your ESG for beginners video is fantastic. But would it be possible for studios to create sacrificial projects so that others can actually make money? Well, this is kind of how the tentpole film used to work. That was kind of how they used to base it. You would put a lot of stock into one or two, maybe even three big movies for a year, and hopefully one of those movies would hit, and then the success of that film would trickle down and make you be able to make these smaller films that would, make their money back more easily, and or you could cover their costs if they didn't. But ESG and the other is filling those gaps, I guess, right, Andre, is basically what your video is saying. And I think he would agree, but do you think he stepped away? But yes. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, because GLAAD, that's one of the organizations, GLAAD. I don't recall exactly what it's an acronym for, but it's Gay Lesbian Alliance something in Hollywood. And every single year they have like this report where they count every single movie from every single studio, and then they assign that studio you believe that this goes into their ESG rating. And as to your question, well, can't they just make one super gay thing and then something else slide? Like, for instance, can't they do One Strange World and then keep everything else reasonably straight? Or in the case of Universal, release one Bros, Chris Gore's favorite movie, and then keep the rest straight here. And they kind of try to do that. How successful it is, I'm not sure, because this report, at the very least, then it counts every single movie and it assesses every single one for its gay representation. And if it isn't good enough, then the studio won't get a passing grade in this report. And ideally, they want every single movie to have loads of representation in every single one. And anything short of that, that's room for further improvement. Mr. Gore, anything you want to add to that?
Not at this time. Not anything that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Back to what Script was saying earlier. Look, this is a golden opportunity for indie filmmakers. Okay. My film just came out. I have other films I'm working on. One where I'm submitting to festivals because I think it's going to be a harder sell that I've been working on for a decade. And there are other films that I have in development. I hope to shoot one, this one I'm working on now before the end of the year. But This is a huge opportunity for independents. Literally, the only thing stopping you is you. There are distributors that are very amenable to new indie projects. The marketplace, unfortunately, I think the big tentpole movies, those are not going away, right? They're just not going away. The things that have suffered are these mid-level movies, the under $10 million movies that, you could make 5 of those. And if one of them performed, it would make it up to the other 4 that didn't make any money, right? A movie like Joker, which was made for $50 million and then grossed $1 billion. You may as well call that a studio independent film at this stage. And I think that Joker 2 will be wildly successful because same philosophy going in. I really can't wait for that. And Todd Phillips ultimately started as an indie filmmaker. I knew him back in the day when he was a student at NYU Film School. He started the New York Underground Film Festival. And I distributed his first movie, which was a documentary about Gigi Allen and the Murder Junkies. Just look up Gigi Allen, or maybe don't, especially if you look up images. But the thing is that this is a huge opportunity. But the thing is that you're going to struggle and not make money for a while as an indie filmmaker. So how many people have that luxury? I mean, look, I have my day job as Film Threat, takes up about half my day. The other half is my outside projects and YouTube. It's like having 3 jobs. But you need to be disciplined to be able to have that, kind of hustle. And you need to develop skills that, if I don't know about something, I generally read a book. If it's about marketing or business or whatever, and there is so much knowledge. You not only have to be wildly creative as a filmmaker, you also have to have the other side of your brain focused on the business side. Otherwise, you will not succeed. So this is why a lot of indie filmmakers struggle for years, make one good movie, and then get plucked up by the studios. And that's easier because if you're working for a studio, you're just getting paid, right? You're just getting paid, you're making money, and you're fine. You don't have to worry about trying to make money, trying to, get your investment to pay off in 7 years, which is sometimes what it takes for your average indie movie pays off in 7 years. So I don't know why there hasn't been more of an explosion. I see a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, Abruptio is a movie no one's ever heard of, but when it comes out later this year, I think it's awesome. There's a movie called The Boogeyman, which is coming out first week of June, I believe, which is effectively an indie movie made by a filmmaker who made the movie Host, which was on Shudder, which I thought Host was great. Host was really good. Boogeyman, fantastic horror based on a Stephen King.
I was just going to say, isn't that the Stephen King one? Yeah.
It is the Stephen King one. So, there should be. I'll just say this. Can I tell you why? It's really hard to make an indie movie. It's freaking hard. You have to be good at a lot of things that don't actually align generally in one person. That's why I tell indie filmmakers, you have to assemble a team. You have to assemble a team, and everyone on the team is called a filmmaker. It doesn't matter whether they do, one part of the job or the business side. They're all filmmakers. Yeah. So don't get caught up in titles and all that stuff. It's sort of annoying.
I just wish we could go back to before Stephen King turned into your lesbian aunt who bitches about everything.
Exactly. Well, there you go.
That'd be nice. We have some very sad breaking news. As C-Man pointed out here in a $2 super chat, we lost Ray Stevenson, I guess. The Irish actor who starred in The Punisher, and most recently in RRR. Yeah. It has been confirmed by their publicist. He is dead at the age of 58. There's no information right now as to what the cause of death is, but there is more to come, evidently. So yeah, shocking news. Not a very old gentleman, and Andre, I got to get your response right away, considering you're a huge Punisher fan, man.
Yeah, I'm very saddened by this. Ray Stevenson, I've never had any kind of interaction with Ray Stevenson, which I regret. He was someone that I meant to reach out to at some point. Well, I've kind of had interaction, but nothing like personal, and I'm yeah, so I'm very saddened by this. It's someone I would have loved to reach out to and talk to. He is my personal favorite Punisher. Punisher Warzone is a flawed movie, but in terms of fidelity to the source material, Ray Stevenson and Punisher Warzone, that's where it's at. He was absolutely fantastic in Rome. That's one of the best series ever made. We've mentioned it in a couple of videos and streams lately because of the whole Cleopatra controversy on Netflix. But he's in that series. Everyone should see it because it's one of the best series ever made. It is also the definitive version of Cleopatra.
Well,
He
it's
was
just
sad, very sad. Carry on,
sad
Chris.
because he was in RRR. He was such
Yeah.
a great villain. Wow, this is really sad to hear.
Yeah, he's so good in everything he does. I've heard nothing but great thing about him. Consummate professional. My thoughts are with his family. I know he had a child during the making of Punisher Warzone, so his child would be at the age where it's the hardest to lose a parent right now. So yeah, just horrible and saddened to hear this.
Yeah, culture, script. Anybody else got anything to say right now?
This is really bad, really bad news. I'm kind of bummed out. Reportedly, he was involved in a project when he took ill. So.
Do we have any more details? We say he took ill.
No.
Do we know anything about what
No,
happened?
nothing.
They have not.
It's
revealed.
very tight-lipped, so I don't know if it's something that
So
was.
it's what we all suspect then.
Maybe or maybe not. Like again, I don't want to jump to any conclusions. So I don't want to say it was a accident. I don't want to say anything.
We
He could have been sick and we didn't know.
Say it, but yeah.
Well, there's always that percentage of a possibility. It's something else, but for now, we'll leave it at that because I don't want to dwell on that kind of a thing when you hear this kind of news. But Script, sound like you were about to say something there, bud.
Other than the fact that I feel for his family, and that's a very young age to die in current era. So yeah, it's quite tragic.
Yeah, I hate to jump off of that note, but we are losing Chris here soon. Not in that respect, hopefully. But good job. I know. I'm like shit. That's a bad way to put it. Marksman 117B had one for you, Chris. It says parents give their kids little screens so they don't bother them. Later, same parents ask their kids why their kids aren't interested in toys. I wonder. I would say why their kids aren't interested in doing anything. Period.
Yeah, go outside. Here's your bike. Come back when it's dark. That was
touch some fucking grass.
Yeah. So I get it though. It's tough, especially when all of their friends also have it. I just think there's bad parenting is currently rampant, and it's led to a lot of bizarre behavior. I can't believe I've noticed in parents these days. So I don't know, man. I don't know. All I know is that, a trip to Toys R Us. I'll tell you how Toys R Us was successful. You may not know this, but the very cheapest place you could buy diapers was Toys R Us. Yeah. They would sell them below wholesale price to get parents to come to the store. So, of course, I was there at least every other week buying diapers. Why? They were so cheap. They were so cheap to get diapers there. Well, of course, you're dragging your kids to Toys R Us to pick up diapers. What else are you going to look at, right? So that was kind of their secret sauce, was to sell like new kid stuff very inexpensively. I mean, they marked that stuff down to the bare minimum or below what they paid because they knew they'd make it up in toy sales. It was a smart strategy. But, Toys R Us, the failure of that brand, that chain, tells you something about how kids are being raised these days, and it's kind of sad. So there you go. Thank you for the comment, Marksman of 117.
Indeed. And 6, do we have the next one ready yet? Thank you so very much. Mr. Big Large McHuge says to Chris, Indy release is pure a GOTS strategy. Is that Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I think that's what he means. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, look, I think we're all going to see it, right? Because at this point, you feel like you have to, you feel obligated. But I think that strategically speaking, screening at the Cannes Film Festival was a colossal error. They're going to look back now that like they were thinking they would ride good reviews into, pre-sales of tickets, and it doesn't look like they're going to be setting any records. Especially this movie opens in 5 weeks? 5 weeks from release. Pre-sale tickets are available, and I don't think many people care.
Can I point out something that's been pointed out multiple times, Chris, that Iger went to this screening in Cannes, and as far as I know, he's never been to Cannes.
Yeah, there you go. Kind of interesting. Might be a swan song. Kathleen Kennedy, I mean, I'm sure she's been to Cannes before.
Oh, yeah.
She's been to Cannes before, but I mean, there were Star Wars movies at Cannes. So, I don't know. It's weird, but you need to understand what Cannes is. I've attended once, got to see what it was like, and I got to attend the festival and the market, and it opened my eyes. So there you go. Can I read this?
Well, and I know they've shown other movies out of contention before as far as like premieres and stuff too, but yeah, usually it's something that's closer to coming out or not something that's kind of profiled where they normally know the kind of response it's going to get. But STR Red Wolf says, is Chris going to appear on NPR's 1A show about cans? Probably not, but they're covering it tomorrow.
No, I'm not. I appear on a small number of shows, this one and on the Nerdrotic Nooner on Wednesdays, and then I do film threads. I occasionally show up as a guest, but no, I am not going to. In fact, I don't know, Tom, you might be on our show on Wednesday for Critics Court, which is after Midnight's Edge. I'm not sure if you're able, but we'll have an offline conversation. At some point in the future, you're going to be on our Critics Court Star Wars on Trial show.
Well, I already know what I was going to argue, so hopefully.
Yeah,
like I've been
we'll have an
researching it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk later. Cool.
Oh, okay. All right. Here in the Steadfast says, FYI, Chris, they don't grind bones up and put them into meat. Old cows, sinew, and meat that fell onto the floor, most likely.
Yeah, but they do use ground bone in other types of meats.
Oh, they also use it in the garden.
Right. Yeah. So it's there you go. But my point is if you've been to a butcher, you see like the actual animals hanging up there before they carve them with chainsaws. That's kind of like my experience was. I love a cheeseburger. I don't necessarily want to know how they're made. I love movies, seeing how they're the behind the scenes, the sales part of it. It's actually it's fun to be on a film set. If you've been on film sets, that's a different kind of experience as well. You get to see how unglamorous a lot of filmmaking is, but the sales aspect of film, which is a very important part of, small movies being profitable, any movie being profitable, that's a business. And it's as someone who loves film, it's disheartening to see the process sometimes. So there you are.
Yeah, I can get a good look at his steak by sticking my head up a bull's ass, but I'd rather take the butcher's word on that one.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
Mario Trilio's got one more here for you, Chris. If the butcher is grinding into their ground beef, then they're bad butcher, but you're California, so they are so likely using his soy filler. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So
soiling green is people.
Yeah.
Still meat though. It's not soy.
That's true.
Right.
Any more for Chris here real quick?
Cool. All right, gentlemen, I got to run, but thank you. Follow.
Check out Film Threat.
Check out Film Threat. And Wednesday, I'll be talking, doing our Critics Court show. And tomorrow we're doing a special show after I see The Flash, which I'm very excited to see.
Wow.
So just check out the Film Threat YouTube channel. Always great to stream with you guys. Andre, Tom, Script, Culture. Take care. I will see you next Monday, if not before.
So, all right, yeah, just get a hold of me about whatever. All right.
We'd love for you to drop in Wednesday morning, talk a little bit about The Flash if you have the opportunity.
If I had the time, yeah, it would be brief. It would be like pop on and pop off. But
yeah, exactly.
Just long enough to tell us that it's Man of Steel with tits. That's all we need.
That's all we need here.
That's okay. All right. Take care, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Take care, Chris. All right, let's get back into a few more of these super chats.
Of course,
then
we are unfortunately.
Oh, we got how long you got, Culture?
Oh, I can stick around for just a few more super
I
chats.
say he might have a few more minutes.
Okay.
He usually lets us know when he's got to go.
Well, in advance, yeah.
He wakes me up before he goes. Because he's not planning on going solo. He's going to take me with him probably.
That's right. That's true.
He's like, I'm not going down alone. What's your first thought? Sends in 22 Canadian dollars. Thank you, eh? Says climate activists in Rome may have permanently damaged a nearly 300-year-old fountain with black ink. I saw that. Wait, activists use ink to destroy beautiful pieces of art? Are they writers for Lucasfilms? Oh.
Actually, those writers use toner.
Yeah.
But yeah, the horrible act at Trevi Fountain really broke my heart because I've been there a few times, and it's a beautiful sight to behold. And the pure hypocrisy of trying to save the environment by damaging something very environmental puts me at a loss for words.
Yeah, this whole idea of trying to protest something by destroying a priceless piece of history and art doesn't make any fucking sense to me whatsoever. Like, what are you trying to prove with your point? And who are you going to get on your side by doing this? It's a no-win scenario. It makes absolutely no fucking sense. Why don't you just go stand in traffic like you used to? That made more sense.
Yeah.
More of a chance for selective.
Mr.
Darwinism.
Mr. pointed out in the chat there that they are like that these people are like ISIS, and he's not wrong. Like, these are proper eco-terrorists.
Yeah.
Tom, you have been a little bit prophetic here, because you were talking about, like, after the wokeness and everything, just wait, the environment is next. And that is kind of like what we're seeing right now. These are environmental terrorists, and they're getting ever bolder and bolder. And here's like the thing. They are completely brainwashed, because what they believe in, their claims of where we are and we need to change things right now, it just doesn't stand up to scrutiny. I'm not going to say that like there's no man-made influence on the environment or anything like that. Far from it. Like, I'm not a denier or anything, but the claims that many of these zealots make simply do not stand up to scrutiny. They believe in a false reality, and they do these senseless acts of wanton sabotage based on nothing, based on literal disinformation and fake news. And it's so frustrating, and my worry is that we're going to see more of this. I mean, it started with like these cans of soup in museums, and people were like, "Oh, what's the point? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there was like a glass layer between the paintings and that soup anyway." Well, that's how it starts. This is the escalation, and what's next?
Well, in between that, they glued themselves to various parts of art or streets or something.
Yeah,
of
that was
nature.
hilarious. I didn't mind that. Because then they noticed, like, oh shit, I need a bathroom, and then they're in for a trouble. So, but yeah, that's my worry here, the escalation. Because like them gluing themselves, that's stupid. They look like idiots, but that doesn't harm anything. This is actual cultural vandalism.
And you know what's going to come as a result of it is that there's now going to be barriers and large distances put between the interaction of these landmarks and the people that abuse them. We already have that now with Stonehenge, and that's before any of this activism happened, because people were like chipping away sections of it to take home, and so now you can't go up to Stonehenge unless you're under heavy security to interact with it. And is that a way to experience other cultures and other pieces of art that are throughout the world, is at literally 10 meters away from this object and under extreme observation and scrutiny? It's a cultural thing, because what we have is generation of people that don't have any type of understanding of being courteous to something that has withstood the elements and the test of time and has had an impact on the people of that locale. It's all very selfish and fleeting and disposable, and that's dangerous.
There's another aspect to this as well, and that is who's behind this, who's directing this, by which I mean follow
it's
the
being
money.
funded.
All of this is being funded. And I bet that if you were to trace that money trail back, the results would be very interesting. It would be lead
Or
to
obvious.
some of the places that ultimately also fund all of the CSG stuff.
Well, yeah, it's very
And again,
unsurprising. Yeah, and they also fund the quote unquote numbers and studies and other things. Yeah.
no, and that's where, like I said, this whole video that we're kind of cooking up in the background is going to lead to, which I guess at this point is like ESG part 3, but it might be whatever by the time it's said.
I'm just going to do one more super chat on this topic because it's relevant.
Absolutely.
Andrei Romaniuk says for $5, this activism for the sake of activism pisses me off. These people are full of themselves and they've been appeased too long. Yeah, and I'm afraid that it's only getting started, but we'll see.
Well, and that's where I've said it might be too late. We've already, we've given them too much rope already. We thought it was rope to hang themselves with, but then it turned out to be to hang us with at the end of the day, I think, to be poetic, I guess. But we will see how this goes, because I think we're hitting a major impasse here. We have been in the middle of one, I guess I would say. It'll be interesting to see what happens on the other end of it. But I've already predicted that the woke stuff is going to start going bye-bye, and we're going to just start seeing more of the environmental side of the ESG thing.
Which again, it's all related to the same thing. You're just moving from the S in ESG to the E in ESG.
Exactly.
But it's still the same basic thing.
And the government's already been a part of it the whole time. This is where it's crazy, right? Like, this is the big difference between now and back in the 60s and 70s, what I was talking about earlier. And this is, I'll just make it quick, Andre.
Yeah.
Is that back then, they were more anti-government, right? On the left.
Yeah.
Now they're the ones going around saying, oh, pro-government this, listen to the government, trust the government. Government knows. Let's change the laws to this. Let's change the laws to that. That kind of business. When it used to be more or less the other way around. But again, there's more parallels than you think. And I don't want to spoil the video we're coming up with. So yeah, with that, it's going to get interesting here in the next couple of years, I think. Mike and Ayer says bicycles are for DUIs. I see a kid on a bike. I worry for his liver. Oh, Mike. And also the Batman had the worst toy line in recent memory. Well, it was just a bad movie overall. And what in that movie was really appealing to kids? I ask you.
Sidestepping that, I will say that the latest Lego Batcave looks amazing.
That's based on the 1991 Batcave, though. My point exactly.
Pretty cool, right?
Right?
Yeah.
What in the Batman, besides maybe the car, which is still pretty basic? It don't look much different than Dom's car and Fast and the Furious. Anyway,
yeah,
sorry,
Tom. It looks like an off-the-lot car with a couple of tricks out.
Yeah.
But I admit, though, I would not have minded if anyone were to gift me that car. But yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it looks cool. But when everybody was like being all like hyped up about it when they first saw the images of them, like, it don't look like anything we haven't seen before in like Fast and the Furious, or like Script Doctor said, an off-the-line car.
He's got
nothing about it screamed Batmobile. Now, 89 Batmobile, that is a fucking beast.
Well, see, and again, that's what Hollywood's different now. I mean, now, we have to admire the welding skills, putting tubular steel together around a regular off the lot Charger. That's what the Batman was. Whereas Batman, that car, dude, it's iconic. Every version of the Batmobile, I think from like way back, from the television series on forward to, the more recent stuff, and the Batman, every other version of the Batmobile was awesome. That version sucks rocks.
Well, it's like they forgot how to become toyetic, right? They used to be good at it. If anything, the toys were usually the better parts of these movies. And now they've gotten to a point where it's like, look at the Batman. It is dour. It is dark. The Penguin doesn't look like anything but what's his face from Spin City? I forgot his name all the time. Yeah, he looks like Victor. Who wants to play with that? There's no Joker. There's no flamboyant characters in it. Batman looks lame as shit. He looks like a fetishized leather guy and wrapped in leather. The only thing, you take those ears off, that's what he looks like. Sorry, guys. I'm going to say
to be fair, though, there was a cameo of Burn Victim Joker.
But he's not a toy.
Wait.
And there's no toy sets to this thing. At least the Riddler was colorful. At least Two-Face was colorful back in Batman Forever. I mean, I'm not saying everything has to be like that, but I'm just saying there's no toyeticness at all to this or the Snyderverse for that matter.
So are you suggesting that by removing the ears, you go from the Batman to the Gimp suit?
Yes.
Okay.
110%.
All right. Can't argue.
Just take off the cape, and you leave the cape for flamboyantness if you want. I mean,
you can put little what do you call that? A boa? Like you could sew a boa to it, like a pink boa or something.
Right. No, but and I see these toys now for all the new Marvel films, and even as an adult, like it doesn't do anything for me because I'm a toy guy, right? Like I love toys, and a lot of the toys I get now are because they didn't have them when I was a kid, right? The first thing I thought when I grabbed the Ghostbuster figures from a couple of years back was like, oh my God, I finally have Ghostbuster figures that look like the Ghostbusters. This is what I wanted when I was a kid. Same thing with the Ninja Turtle ones that look like the ones in the movies. But now I see this stuff on the shelf and it's like nothing of that appeals to me. I mean, I was even interested in like the Godzilla 98 as goofy as it looked. And I knew the movie was shit, but I liked it for what it was. But there's not even that kind of a value in any of this stuff. What, Morbius? Like, I don't really have a Morbius toy, you know. Nothing looks cool. I don't get it. Even the latest Guardians films, I agree. Like the latest one, the outfits look like hell.
Yeah.
Who wants a toy of that? Anyway, I went on too long. Let's keep moving. Space Monkey 0899 says the corporal behavior reminds me of cyberpunk. Go ahead. Culture looks like you got something to say.
100%. We are living in a corporatized country. You are living in corporatism, and the globe is about to get there, which is very authoritarian. And you will live in a form of squalor if this continues that most people are not prepared for. And outside of the elites, you know, you are headed into Mike Pondsmith's world. Sorry.
There you go. And then we've got Dagaz Rune for $10. Thank you so much. Says Chloe Alui Cravallo was the model for Moana. Okay.
Oh, wow.
She was recast because she is half Puerto Rican. As the father to a half Cuban, this action guarantees my family won't watch this film. Wow. WDW Pro cover. You know what's funny? Is they better start paying attention to this because, I mean, I know he's talking about being half Cuban and half Puerto Rican, but the Latino audience,
they're huge.
The Latin audience is huge.
Yeah.
And when they turn away from something, I bet you'll feel it. Because they also were a big part of, I think, Encanto doing as well as it did with absolutely no advertising whatsoever. I think they spent $1.05 on the advertising for that movie.
Something like that.
Yeah. So they better start paying attention. Mr. Big Large McHuge says this isn't about business anymore. It's personal.
That's also true.
It's not personal, Sonny. It's about business.
Yeah.
STR Redwolf says, I think going to Anthrocon, never heard of that one, over the July 4th weekend is better than watching anything on Disney Plus. I'll be returning via Amtrak that July 4th, Tuesday. I'm going to take a wild shot in the dark and say that it's some anime related.
It might be. Yeah.
Am I right with that, STR Red Wolf? It's just a hunch. Legendary Racing, I see what you did there. That's funny. Says, I think Disney did all the bad news at once to limit the press possibilities. One very bad week is better than one bad month. I think you're partially right here, Legendary Racing, only they had a very huge miscalculation, and that was they did not expect such a lukewarm to negative response to Indiana Jones. I'm not 100% sure that KK wasn't aware that this was going to be announced about Willow. But I think that Disney and everybody else, along with their announcement about that and the Star Cruiser, which was actually something that she probably knew, but I think they were banking on Indiana Jones taking all the headlines.
I think you're right. I think that they were banking on headlines like, new Indiana Jones is a triumph. Standing
Yep.
ovation. Everyone loves it. I would think they may have been banking on that, but that's what they genuinely thought. And then, oh yeah, and no, to this other stuff, no one cares. Because look, Indiana Jones, that they were probably expecting the media to run cover for them, as one does, and basically just focus on how amazing Indiana Jones was, how incredible Fleabag was in it, what an joyride and respectful departure for Harrison Ford and everything. And oh yeah, and by the way, a little notice right here. This stuff removed and Galactic Star Cruiser, but Indiana Jones, and it said Indiana Jones kind of sucked too, and then it was just all bad news. No good.
Yeah,
news
because
counter it, just
Indy
all bad.
being bad just kind of shined a spotlight on the other bad news, basically.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
They flooded us with bad news. I mean, let's be fair, and it's not.
And that's
gonna
where I'm
end.
not convinced that Kathy didn't know about this.
Well, I still think they may have been just a way to knock her down several pegs. But I like I said, I mean, you're going to continue to get bad news out of Disney. They're swimming in so much red ink, and as I think Mike was on one of the shows last night talking about the fact that their cash on hand situation is very suspect. Cash and cash equivalents being as low as they are.
Well, and I think that's part of the reason they're pushing Little Mermaid hardcore right now. The embargo lifted. It's getting glowing reviews from the right media, right? Because they are afraid to give this one a bad review. See, India has an okay out. We could be wrong on all the access stuff, Andre. The thing is, they're able to like bash on Indy because it has an old white man as the star, right? Little Mermaid's a different story. And it's also a straight up remake of the one of the more popular Disney films.
But it's not. They added. Tom, you were the one pointing this out early. How much extra footage did they add? This film is like almost twice as long as the original or something. How are you going to make it longer? First of all, that Aquafina rap is like an assault on your ears.
Well,
and
I kind of gave you the answer to this already. Culture. This is where Disney's putting their money. We've got the answer right now. We're already seeing the advertisements for it. They're pushing for the Little Mermaid. They're banking on that more so than anything.
The toys are already on clearance at Walmart. You can save $4 on one of the Little Mermaid.
Disney don't give a shit. They already cashed their check, buddy.
I understand, but I mean, it's just that's not a good sign for this as a cultural zeitgeist moving, or at least permeating the zeitgeist. That's not going to happen. There's not going to be. There's not going to be public investment in this thing. This film is.
Well, we do have one negative review here through the tons of positive reviews it's been getting so far. We've got one that kind of came through. Surprisingly, it comes from The Guardian, or not surprisingly, I guess. Mm-hmm. Ellen E. Jones gives it 2 stars out of 5. She says, Bailey is the best thing about this film, but despite a team crammed with talent, this live-action reworking can't match the magic of the 1989 classic.
Well, and let me add to this. AP didn't exactly give it a glowing review either today, which is strange. So.
It says here, this is good, but almost everything else about this flops like a dying fish on deck.
Ooh.
Whoa.
I
Yeah.
predicted
The most
they might use
significant
that criticism.
Yeah. The most significantly, this applies to the trio of comic relief characters: Sebastian the Crab, Flounder the Fish, and Scuttle the Seabird. Ouch. This is no fault of the bullshit. You've got someone I've never heard of who does not have the gravitas of the original voice actor. Somebody else I don't care. And Aqua fucking Fina. Here's your problem right here. Like, you're replacing one of the most beloved comedians in history, Buddy Hackett, with Aquafina. Was Martin Short busy or something? I mean, what the fuck? I mean, that would have been one of the easier ones to cast there. Why would you put Aquafina in the role of Scuttle?
Representation? I think it may be as simple, honestly, as agency. That she's hot right now. Like she has a relationship with Disney, or her agent does. She's probably read by CIA or something. So she was already in Shang-Chi, and she was recently in Renfield. Now she's in this. She's on a roll. So yeah, she's one of those that they try to make happen by the sounds of it, because there's no market demand for her in all of these big roles, which tells me that this is someone else that they try to make happen, only at a different level.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this was they're trying to manufacture Aquafina into something she's not. Marvel's Katie, disaster. You pointed that out. Renfield underperformed, and she didn't really. I mean, she was probably one of the better things about the film, as much as I enjoyed it. And
I don't know about that, but I would say she's.
Yeah, I disagree. She was. Yeah, sorry, Tom. Go
the
ahead.
worst part in a good movie.
I was being kind. And anyway,
you don't have to. I mean, she doesn't even use her real name. Her real name's Nora. And she's repped by UTA, which they're trying to manufacture into a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard her quote unquote comedy, and it's very low hanging fruit, boring.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a woman who doesn't take care of herself. She looks 10, 15 years older than she actually is. And the fact that she's got the Asian genetics working in her favor don't help her make her look any younger. In fact, they do the opposite. So yeah, she's got to reinvent herself if she wants to be as successful as the perceived illusion that she's being told is.
Well, she's already kind of abandoned her black scent, which is probably a good idea. But regardless, like I said, I don't see her appeal. I haven't since the very beginning. And the rap song, I keep going back to that because it just exposes her for how limited she is in talent. It's just a very bad choice. Very bad choice.
Well, yeah, she's been oversaturated since 2018. And that's a big problem because she's just picking everything. She's not caring about her career. She is literally just scooping her hand into the to the fountain while she can. And the fact that we're seeing an oversaturation like this shows that a transparency that she knows she's not going to last any very long in this industry. When you see a person's face that often, that quickly, they're short-lived always.
Yeah, because again, like whenever I see them all over the place, to me that tells me the industry is trying to make them happen, and the market isn't going to have it, because then it would have been spread out longer. But when it's all over the place all at once,
yeah, it's a flooding of the market to try and make it a thing. Where, I mean, when you take a look at any of the big stars in the past, even up to the dawn of the internet age, the ones that really took off were in a handful of projects over a few years, not 20 or 30 in the last 5.
Yeah, she's been busy. But no, I mean, I put her up there with Armie Hammer.
But she doesn't have the baking soda company to support her career to be manufactured.
And her fetishes. I mean, let's be fair.
Oh, we don't know anything about that, but they're probably not as extreme as his.
I mean, and her name is also technically theft of an existing water brand, so it's not even original there. So,
wow, well, I guess she's just trying to be original and artistic. So yeah, and then moving on from there, how long you have a few more minutes, Culture. So yeah, then let's do a couple of more super chats before we move on. John Thomas claims that Darth Kennedy didn't have her day ruined. She's intelligent enough to know she's hated, arrogant enough to believe the misogyny tripe, and evil enough to burn it all down on the way out. Yeah, for sure. But still, I'm of the opinion that she probably thought that the audience is going to love this. Finally, everyone is going to see what a great producer I am when I make the best Indiana Jones movie ever, and the audience and the critics just weren't having it. I don't think that she was happy at all. That then suddenly it was this barrage of bad news, now led forth by Indiana Jones rather than deflected by Indiana Jones. What say you, Script?
I say that she maybe knows she's hated, but she doesn't care about the people that hate her because they're not the people that she associates with. It's so she's so far removed from them in her world that it doesn't matter to her. What would matter to her is if her close friends were brave enough to tell her what is honestly going on with her running of Lucasfilm and her projects. But that will never happen because that's not how relationships function in Hollywood. I think that certain aspects with the press and certain questions that are fielded her way will probably be the only thing that gets under her skin, but she can easily, brush that off later because of the massive amount of power that she still holds within the industry and will hold until most likely the day she dies. Even if she retires, she's still going to have a lot of power and influence. Jack Nicholson's been retired for 20 years. People still use him to broker deals and make connections, and nobody ever wants to balk at a guy like him because he started out as a writer, became an actor and producer, and a big heavy hitter in the industry for decades to come.
But sometimes you stop getting invites to the cocktail parties, and I think with what she's done with Lucasfilm, she may join that club where you stop getting the invite to the cocktail party.
Glad you brought that up.
Most of that club she made. Like, that's the problem.
Yeah. On that note, Dale Grimes says for $20, thank you, Dale, for the support. WDW Pro has alluded to the idea that Iger knew Indy 5 was going to be bad. He wanted to see the look on KK's face. He doesn't usually go to Cannes. Now, that's a very interesting take / accusation right there. Do we think that he might have gone to Cannes just to see the look on her face when the critics didn't like it? Script, could there be anything to this?
No, because he never went to Cannes before. The only reason he went back is because he retook over Disney, and Indiana Jones is now a flagship property under Disney. He has to be there. It's also a free trip to Paris for him. So, or not Paris, but like South France. No, I think I don't believe for a second that he thought this movie was bad. Because again, Hollywood studios and producers, they don't think they're making anything bad. They make movies for themselves, and the ideal goal is that what they want is in line with the audience. That's the assumption, and that's the ideal with any creator, is that you are making something you want and you think other people are going to like it too, so you put it out there. And if it hits, it hits, and if it doesn't, well, then you're just out of sync with the audience there. I think Iger went to Cannes because, again, he's back at Disney. He's the head of Disney. This is a flagship movie for them. It's also an end of an epic franchise for sure. It's not like Star Wars that can go on forever, theoretically, of course. So, and this is also a Harrison Ford's last outing as Indiana Jones. So it's basically a celebration of him in this character, this franchise that they had at Disney. It is also the first and only Indiana Jones film Disney is going to make. So that's probably why he's there as well. It's kind of a putting a franchise to bed, so to speak, at least in this particular form. Who knows what they'll do with it later. And the other part too is Iger's not going to be head of Disney in a few years, and he'll probably have no other opportunity to go to Cannes again for another film of this gravitas. So this is his one and done way to be like, not to avoid the pattern of of starting a pattern of other Disney heads where they never went to Cannes during a Disney film premiere. So he at least did it once, which I'm surprised because I figured he would have done it more given some of the other films that Disney put out and wanted to get noticed.
I would have thought so too. But Cultured, what say you? Could this really just be the reason that he went there was just to look at the face of Kathleen Kennedy when she got the response, that he had to be there in that second just to derive that pleasure? Is this something we would expect of Bob Iger?
I would love to believe that would be the 100% the truth. Would it surprise me that they all knew that this was not going to be received well? No. But was that solely event? I don't know. That's very speculative. Would I be surprised? No, but I don't. That's not what I think.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
No.
I think there's a lot going on here. I think that they did anticipate that there would be lukewarm response to this, but I think they were more interested in the headlines. And again, I mean, it's very telling that they were there together. I know that he was supposedly out partying quite late that same night. I look, all of this is kabuki at this point, because this film is made. It's going to come out. It's going to underperform most likely, and it was going to be exactly the film we said it was going to be when Mangold decided to start attacking Matt Kadish. So, you know, we can definitely talk about, speculate what people's motivations were for being where they were, but it is telling that I don't, like I said, this is not a normal event for Iger. Of course, he doesn't usually release or isn't part of a releasing films that would normally go to Cannes, so it is what it is.
Yeah, and I don't know that WDW Pro said those words exactly. Remember, this was a super chat, so I'm not saying that he said anything of the sort. But no, I also do not believe that Bob Iger would have gone there just to basically drink your salty tears. It would be fun if that were the case.
Yes,
but I regret that I do not believe that to be legitimate.
No, this is a big deal for them. This is about promotion. And that backfired.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
And I love this comment here. Wasn't Cannes about indie films originally?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it was. That is hilarious.
Oh, I hate to do this, but I have to go, guys. I apologize.
All right. Well, check out Culture Casino's channel. Anything to plug real quick on your way out?
Sure. I mean, 6-minute daily, Monday through Friday, and all the other great things I get to point out with all of my other friends on other streams. So thanks for having me, guys. I hope you have a wonderful Monday, and don't go anywhere because there's plenty of news to cover, and you got 3 smart people here to do it. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye, Culture.
Thanks for the kind words. Take care. All right. Then let's move on with these super chats here before we move on. Walter Whittaker says, any chance offing Willow might mean a reboot?
No. It's dead, Jim.
I wonder if this might be a weird strategy for Disney creating a pseudo Disney vault sort of things, where they take it off, they nix the contracts, and then 10, 15 years down the line, they try to bring it back and renegotiate with any of the surviving people for very minimal residuals.
The only thing that I would say against that is with my research is that if they use this as a write-off, they basically cannot. It's basically scrapped then because it's the way that it was worded in the article and what I found out in my research. Let me see if I can butcher this really badly, because Andre will probably know what I'm talking about once I get into it, and he'll be like, "Oh no, it means this," basically. But anyway, let me try it. These things cost more than they're worth, so them writing them down as losses is how it works in the tax side of things. But my understanding is that they cannot release them for any more profit or whatever in the future ever again. So they cannot.
I would imagine so. If you take a tax write-off on it, like, oh yeah, we lost. You know what? No, screw it. I don't know. This is we need Mike in here.
Mikey would know what I'm talking about, but yes, that's the way I understood it from my research. Is that the type of write-off they would have to put these under is basically like you spent $1 billion on something and only made 300 million back. And it's going to take you forever to make, or you'll never make a profit on it, right? It's never going to gain back the worth it was worth in the first place.
It's never going to gain back its investment. That's what you mean.
Exactly. And so it's a write-off in that sense, but in that sense, then they cannot ever try to gain that capital back again, right? So so it's once it's in the vault, it's vaulted forever. They can't release it later on.
They can't release it under any model that will generate an income for them.
That's true.
Yeah.
But
which doesn't preclude them from the streaming service if they have a free version of it for people that they can prove that they don't see a dime of actual revenue from. So that would be the only other option.
See, and because that kind of goes to the next part where a lot of these people are griping about it, is some people are saying it has nothing to do with the tax write-off. It has more to do with the money they're saving by not paying the residuals to those who are involved with it. Which, I mean, if it's a losing proposition, why would you want to pay people that good money after bad, basically at that point?
Well, I mean, and the other part too is Disney is claiming there's not enough money to garner residuals for their streaming program anyway. So how could that also be true? I mean, like which party is lying, right? Because the WGA is striking because residuals are one of the talking points on their docket, and Disney and studios are saying, well, there's no money in streaming, and then you go around and you say, well, we're also going to shelve and bury these shows and write them off and erase them from existence, and that's going to save us a whole bunch of money. And then on top of that, it's also going to save us more on residuals. And then me going in the back saying like, well, hold on. If it's going to save you also money on residuals, then there is money in streaming. You know, it's a very interesting set of parameters going on right now.
Yeah, it is. But no, I don't think that they will try to reboot it again in the future, or any of these things, really. I highly doubt it. Maybe one or two of them they might try again in some other form in the future, but
I would be shocked if they did.
Yeah, Willow, this was like it's one shot, and it didn't happen.
Just remember, the old Willow, it really isn't that really beloved classic. It flopped upon release, and it has something of a following, but it's not like this.
No, it didn't flop. It didn't flop, Andre. That's a misnomer. No, it made like almost $300 million.
Oh, okay.
It just didn't make as much. It didn't. Yeah. The thing that it didn't do, and you can go check this out because this is true. Lucas was disappointed by the toy sales. It didn't sell nearly the type of toy sales that Star Wars did, so he didn't see it having a future as a franchise. But no, in the box office, it did very well, actually. It was one of Ron Howard's higher grossing films till much later in his career, from my memory.
And for the toy sales, one of the reasons it didn't sell is that so many little people, those are technically choking hazards for kids.
Yeah, well, they used Rnold, which was a huge mistake. Rnold does not do figures. If you go back and look at the toys, you'll see why they sucked. They have no articulation whatsoever. They're basically like just rubber figurines. Yeah, it was a poor thing. But yeah, no, I think Willow's done for. I think this was its only shot, because Andre's right on the other side of it, because it not having 2-3 sequels and a bunch of books and video games and other things like Star Wars and Indiana Jones did have in the Interium. It didn't gain any audience, right? It has those few people who hang on to it, like myself, and that's it. It has not gained any new audience to really speak of in the last 30 years. That's the thing, because it hasn't had any legs or life beyond that first film.
And I mean, that also means that the fan base is aging. It appeals to people.
Exactly.
It doesn't have a single fan under the age of 40.
None to really speak of anyway, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure that there's some kids that picked it up. I'm not going to say that there isn't a few people that are younger in our audience, because I'm sure there's always one who said, well, not me. I was, it was already out 30 years before I discovered it. Well, yes, there's exceptions.
But you're one of 12.
Exactly my point. Yes, I was getting to, as Andre was just saying. Yeah, it was never a franchise that had legs. Darius Munchausen sends us some popcorn, and he surely needed it this morning. Thank you, Darius. And then Hyper Guyver says, Tom, good point, though. JBVO was a series that disappeared 23 years ago, and last week the entire series was finally found. What's JBVO?
I don't know. That's not ringing any bells.
Yeah, JBVO. With the V, you would think it'd be something I could think of right away, but with you guys, it might be some anime that I'm not sure.
If it is an anime, I'm sorry, Eunice. Don't.
Yeah. You just go ahead and add us in the chat. One of us will see it. But I did not know whatever that is unless I know what it is. Petrus Loretus says Hollywood's problem is that it's obsolete. The Avengers was to porn as World of Warcraft is to sex. I prefer to do rather than watch. Well, this is one issue going forward if Hollywood decides to bank too much on video game films. Because I'm somebody who's not convinced that they are the future of movies, even though I know that's what they're going to think because of Mario Brothers. I am one of those that is in the camp of arguing that unless it's something that you can really add something to or adapt in any way that adds value to it in film, you're fucked, because every single video game now is a movie plus. So you have that problem. Only a few of these are going to work. Sonic, maybe Mortal Kombat, Mario, stuff like that. Once you start getting to some of these other ones, Uncharted didn't do very well. I have a feeling once The Last of Us starts getting into things that they have promised with the second game, that's going to start turning off some fans. And in some cases, it's like if you don't stick directly with the game, then some people get pissed. But then I'm one of those people, it's like, well, if I'm going to do that, I'll just play the game. I don't want to watch a movie. And I hate that when I'm watching a movie and I'm like, I feel like I'm watching a video game, and I'd rather just pick up a controller, which is probably my only real complaint about John Wick 2 and 3. Speaking of which, John Wick 4 dropped on video on demand today. That was a segue for that. But anyway, but yeah, like sometimes you get movies like The Avengers at the same time, or same kind of thing. It's like, this feels more like I'm watching a video game than a movie anymore. So yeah, you're not, I don't know about it being obsolete, but I think you have a point here. I guess I get what you're saying.
I would say that the story mechanics of a video game is that you're a part of the narrator.
Right.
You're part of the narrating experience. With a movie, you are being pulled into someone else's narrative, and you're experiencing that with them in a different light. You don't have an active participation. You're just brought along for the ride. With a video game, you're actively participating. I think with games like Super Mario and Sonic, because they have very, very simple stories, but they have a very rich universe, they have the ability to go in other directions. Something like Uncharted, it was designed to be a hybrid between a film and a video game. So taking out the one of its key legs of what made Uncharted popular just to make it a strict movie doesn't fit with what that entire concept started initially. And I think that's going to be the same for a lot of others, that they're trying to be video games with cinematic elements, and that's just not how it works. A video game has to be an interactive element, and then to make it into a movie type of thing, you got to play into the stuff that has nothing to do with the actual gameplay, which would be the universe and lore around it. So hypothetically speaking, a film based in the Mass Effect universe could work, but you can't use any of the characters from Mass Effect. You'd use the species, you'd use the infrastructure, the various institutions, but you want it to be of that universe and not of that. That's why there's so many Star Wars games that don't have you playing as Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia, right? That because it's exploring other aspects of the universe.
Yeah, and that's kind of exactly what I was getting to. And you also have the other problem there is like things like Final Fantasy, where they haven't encroached on any games. They just don't have any appeal. So you have like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation there. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. And that's part of exactly my point. And like, even people are like, oh, I would love to have like a Solid Snake movie or something like that, Metal Gear movie. Yeah, a Metal Gear movie could work, but I'm on the side of arguing that part of the appeal of that game was that you are interactive with it, right? You are controlling that character. You are invested in, more so in, whether or not you get caught, whether you have to shoot somebody, whatever's going down in the scene at the time in the level, to where I think that there's going to be a separation there, or a loss between the audience and the screen. I mean, sure, a general audience member might be able to enjoy a movie like that on a certain level, but then how many of the game geeks are going to freak out about it like Mortal Kombat? And I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm just saying, like, there was a lot of us who were not allowed to enjoy that movie when it came out because of some of the game people were just like, that's not how it goes. It's like, well, okay, well, we had fun with the movie. We're judging the movie. So you also have that problem too. And I think Script's right. Things like Mario and Sonic that have a lot more you can expand upon or explore within their worlds are different. The ones that started with simpler stories usually, which is ironic. And then we got Jesus Davila, who sends us a thumbs up. Thank you so much, Jesus. We appreciate that. Matthias Fredrickson. Hi, Andre. Air on Kong. You're going to have to do this one.
Yeah, sure. It says, André en kong her, men Tom fortsatt konge.
He's saying something about monkeys or ape, I'm sure.
It translates to that Andre is the king here, but Tom, you're still royalty. Or Tom, you're still awesome.
So wait a minute. King Kong means king?
Yes, it does.
That's fucking stupid. That's like He-Man.
I know. Yeah, I know. That's in all Scandinavian countries. King Kong literally means Kong Kong, because our word for king is Kong.
That's fucking stupid.
I know. So we that's a title that we did not translate, because it would be, if you translate King Kong to Norwegian, it would be Kong Kong.
Yeah, that's why I never understood where in like Masters of the Universe, Skeletor just didn't go up into He-Man and go, He-Man, it's the same thing twice. Why not just call yourself Guy? It's like, it's a dumb name.
It was originally Herman. He just replaced the R with a
Herman.
hyphen. It's cooler.
I got made fun of in school, man. Herman is not a cool name. But He-Man, nobody fucked with me after that. Mr. Tickle Trunk says, making short films to get notices just like gaming for AAA to hire you. Make a digital board game to learn coding and mobile game to get hired. I guess I can see the comparison there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That used to be very, very solid advice. I mean, even Obama used to tell this to like factory workers and stuff. Learn coding. But there's a lot of people that know coding now, and loads of IT people getting outsourced and everything. So yeah, learn it, but learn it to the point where you actually can do a mobile game and use that in your resume.
Yeah. And then we got Michael Alexander, who says, really wanted to enjoy Evil Dead Rises, but the trans actor character keep taking me out of the movie. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't speak.
Did I forget to hook you up with it?
No, you did. I just...
Okay. Yeah.
I got other things I'd rather do. But no, yeah, you've seen it, haven't you, Andre? Or
yeah, I have.
Did you have an issue with this part of it, or?
Well, there's this. I didn't pick up on the character being trans. I just thought it was like a really ugly activist.
Well, I think it's just an actor. I didn't know the character was too, but I guess I remember reading about the actor. But
I don't know anything about the actors. But I haven't read a single word about any of them. There was like one character who's a super duper activist, like proper Antifa in it. I would imagine that this is the character who is trans, or actor who is trans. If it isn't, then I don't know, and I don't pick up on it because I don't know anything about any of these actors in their real lives.
Yeah. Well, all I know is everybody's like debating about the King Kong thing in the chat. Look, the biggest movie of the year has the lead actor with the name Mario in it. Just let's move on. Yep. Okay. And that's simply because of a stupid, like they never thought of the fact that, we'll call him Mario in the US market. And then they like that name over in Japan. So they just called the next game Mario Brothers because there was two of them.
And didn't realize that was going to be their surname.
Didn't think about it.
Thinking it's hard. It's just a stupid video game. They don't care.
Right. At that point, they're like not thinking about the freaking... And this is the other dumb thing about Mario Brothers, and this is why I love it when video game people argue with me about certain things. The Super Mario Brothers 2 we have here in the US is what, Doki Doki Challenge or whatever the hell it was over in Japan. So a good 80% of what Mario Brothers background is and stuff that people use for their lore and world comes from that. So what the hell? Because that's the more popular stuff that come out of it, and Mario 3 is a result of that game. So anyway,
and Mario 3 is the real Mario 2. So
yeah. So you got this stupid roundabout eating its own snake's tail thing, and so at the end of the day, you're just like, whatever. The Mario Brothers movie works. That's all that matters.
I don't think you're too much about anything else.
No, just stop thinking about it all. Chuck Henry says, watch Angel Studios in their production. They are breaking out with Sound of Freedom Homestead. And using crowdfunding to get around ESG. Oh, okay. I've never heard of these guys, but there you go. Crowdfunding is one way of doing it, but it's tough. It's tough because unless you're somebody who's a known entity or you can attach a known entity to it, then it's tough to get people's attention. But if you can already get a known entity attached to it, then you already have a good chance of getting a studio interested. So you're kind of in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation there kind of thing too. So I don't know if Script has anything to add or subtract from that, but
nope.
I know we agree with a lot of things. Like, again, if you're going to do something though, don't do a fan film.
Exactly. Don't. I mean, what was that thing on Twitter trending recently? Someone did a Knights of Ren Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. But if that was original, would have been way more impressive. Would have translated more, and they could have made money off of YouTube.
Not just that, but like a lot of times I've heard a lot of people say that they see them as competition, not so much as like, this is your ticket in. It used to be with George Lucas, right? Because he fostered that community. That's how he found a lot of people he worked with.
He
I'm not gonna
found
go
only
too.
one, actually.
I thought it was a few that he found, but okay.
Nope, just the one. The guy that made Troops was the only one officially hired by Lucasfilm to work with him.
I thought the guy who made some of the droids for one of those short films works like a lot of the technical people that ended up getting hired.
There's people that made droids independently that went to conventions that were hired, and some of them may have worked on films, but they didn't get noticed by George Lucas through the films. They got noticed because they went to conventions with their droids.
Well, he still fostered that community just the same.
No, he fostered it, but yeah, out of that entire community, very rare.
My point is with that is that's probably the last and only time you'll ever have a situation where doing a fan film or a fan community like that actually did try to, you could have got some notice. That's dead and gone. You do anything now, Batman, Star Wars, Superman, Marvel related, you're more apt to get their attention from the lawyers than they are from the attention of their actual creatives, unfortunately. Correct. The only other exception I can think of is the deep fake guy now who works, but he's supposedly unemployed now from Disney, from what I'd heard. Because he didn't even work on Indiana Jones because he only did the 1 bits or whatever it was for him, and that was it. Because I think he said something like, I don't know for sure, but thought I read from an interview with him where he had said something like he didn't even work on the Boba Fett bit or something like that. I can't remember now, but anyway, they just had him fix the one thing.
Yeah, because they have their own proprietary thing, and it's going to be.
And this is why I think people are. Sorry, Andre, but I think this is why people are griping about the de-aging in Indiana Jones, because they refuse to use deepfake. They have that de-aging stuff that they've been using since Civil War or before that.
Oh, it was from Ant-Man. The one in Ant-Man at first was actually still pretty good because it was basically the 3rd generation of what they used for Jeff Bridges and Tron Legacy.
Well, and the thing is the big difference, and I figured it out myself, at least I think I have, why deepfake works where this de-aging doesn't, is the de-aging gives you like this dead eye syndrome, as to where deepfake is actually using elements from other film and pictures and stuff to where it feels more alive. Now, of course, it's still artificial, but
it doesn't cover up the eyes, so that's the thing.
Yeah, that uses the eyes or whatever. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of there's something that's a big part of it. That and the mouth is the other half, because those are the two things. Yeah, go ahead.
The mouth is the dead giveaway. I mean, that's the one that people figured out with Tron Legacy and also with Ant-Man. Is that everything else looks great, but it's the mouth that's off. It feels like it's pasted on top of whatever they de-aged. So the deepfake and some of the face swapping tech and the de-aging tech is trying to mitigate that, but it's still, I mean, it's come a long way, but it's still many years out from being a very convincing.
It's still better than the crap they're using there. It's been more convincing where I've seen them use the deepfake. And I've seen some videos on YouTube where people have used deepfake where I'm like the Tom Cruise ones. There's a few out there that it's kind of scary how real they look. But again, that goes along with having somebody who has the same kind of facial structure, body movements, and then, like Script was saying, it uses a different kind of technology, so it helps. But Chuck Henry has also been a member for 7 months. Thank you for that. And how much more time you got here, Script?
About 4 minutes.
Okay, so after this one, if there's any more for Script, please 6 if you can. GEC812 says, you talked about the way Arnold's and The Rock work with people. What have you heard about the way Stallone worked with people? Seems cool to me. Actually, the only time I've heard anything real negative, at least in more recent times with Stallone, was him butting heads with Bruce Willis and the whole Rocky business. And in both of those cases, I would say he's in the right.
No, Arnold and Stallone of that time were very much collaborators. Because Stallone was a writer, and then he did a little bit of acting, and then he became more of an actor, and then more of a director and a producer and a director writer, and then all those things. So he played all those hats. So he understood the value of it. Arnold Schwarzenegger knew that as he was getting into the entertainment system, he was out of his league, and so he was willing to do whatever he could with whomever gave him a shot to do the best he could to build up his career, his brand, and what he was doing stateside. So those two guys were very much understanding of the collaborative aspect of Hollywood. The Rock, on the other hand, was shepherded to be a superstar in wrestling, and then when he transitioned over to film, he wanted to have that same accolades in movies, so he would only get people around him that would bolster his image that way, instead of working with some creatives to compromise with certain aspects, to play maybe villains or different types of characters. and push things forward. He always had to be the center of attention, where with Stallone and Arnold, they were like, well, we know we're the stars, but we have to make the movie good. And The Rock isn't usually like that. I think the closest thing he ever said is in Rampage, where he's like, the ending just has to be happy or good at get happy. Everything else about that is usually typically him being the center of attention. I mean, the closest stuff that he's done where his performances have actually shined was in really terrible movies like Southland Tales, you know, like where nobody even remembers that he was in that. But
or Be Cool.
Or Be Cool, where he actually had very good performances in there.
Yeah.
And the story goes that even though he worked on those films, there were a lot of butting heads and creative differences, and The Rock never works on any of those again, even though I think if he kept doing that and kept finding writers and directors and producers that were interested in convey and best utilizing him to what his skills were, as opposed to him trying to manufacture an image aping Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone and other men like him prior, he probably would have been able to stand on a podium shoulder to shoulder with those guys.
I think if anything, as far as working with other people, to a fault, like Arnold, like he went through with those last couple Terminator movies, knowing they were bad because he was playing ball. Stallone and him, I mean, I'm sure I've heard stories about him butting heads with people and certain other things like that. Yeah. Like there's the famous story where Stallone tried to kick the shit out of Eddie Murphy for supposedly sleeping with Brigitte Nielsen. But I mean, those are just stories. But as far as like The Rock, he's very manipulative. Like, this is what I've been trying to tell people for a while now with this whole shit with Henry Cavill. Like, he deserves a lot of the blame for that shit. And we've been learning more and more so that he's kind of capable of doing these kind of things, and he does like to swing his weight around a little bit when it comes to this kind of stuff. And he's kind of desperate to get a franchise right now. I don't know if Andre or Script want to add to that, but we got one more before Script Doctor leaves here. I think that he'd be good at answering. But go ahead if you guys want to add or subtract to the earlier point.
Yeah, no, let's move on.
All right. New Guy Drew says, not sure if y'all talked of it already, but can you explain how film gets into cans? Keep up the good work, fellas. Yeah, Script, do you know how that works out? Or
like with a lot of the bigger festivals out there, such as Sundance, TIFF, unfortunately you have to know somebody part of the selecting committee. Most of the studios that get into those most of the films that get into those festivals are not independent. They are studio backed. They have names. They have celebrity associated with them. They are there to market the festivals and to be a stepping stone to the market, the distribution markets that take place during the festival runs. So Cons was never really about independent film. It was just about foreign film and international film.
Right.
And that's what it is. It's a film market. It's to showcase movies that will be coming out in the foreseeable future. It used to have avenues for independent filmmakers where you could submit for review and be showcased as part of their independent film market. However, they don't make as much money, the festivals, on those. So they're much smaller. And it's really just about taking the bigger studio films, international ones. A lot of them are US owned, but there are a number that are from Germany, from France, Czech Republic, all those places. They all have their own like studio systems, Norway even, and of course, and they all throw submissions into Cons, and then the selection committee picks the best ones that they think will generate the most revenue for their show. And then
is that how they decide the Palme d'Or or whatever?
Similar to that as well. There's another committee, that, to my understanding, that reviews that for the awards, but there's a principal committee that reviews what gets accepted.
Right.
And
I just brought that up because I think that's where people get this perception about independent films, because when people think about the Palme d'Or and the movies that have won it, the few that you've heard about have been like movies like Pulp Fiction and stuff like that, which were kind of technically quote unquote independent, but it wasn't. People think of it like an independent film, but it really, really wasn't.
No,
the Script saying is true.
They're just very, very low budget sort of studio financed films or studios with distribution deals with them. And they used that distribution deal as a means to get into Con to showcase the film so that they could get more theater access and therefore make more money on tickets. And then eventually in the early 2000s, it was all about the DVD and Blu-ray. And now it's going back to the theatrical stuff again, where it's essentially a festival, which is a commercial for your movie. I mean, that's what TIFF has become over the last 20 years. It used to be a great place for not just international film, but they had a huge independent film market below. and they do world premieres for Canadian films, original Canadian films, and they don't do that stuff anymore. They say they do, but I've been to TIFF for many years, and trying to find those films, it's like crickets. They're not there. So
Yeah.
it's a studio commercial assess of sorts for the stuff that's going to be coming out that everybody is going to be able to see in various theaters.
Well, you're
Rarely
basically
do you not
asking
find them.
is you want to get into like independent film contests and stuff to get your film noticed. And the best way to do that is usually to start with short film contests.
Yeah. So the one thing that's very important, I put this in my Patreon article, is that all the major film festivals have short film entries. They all, up until a few years ago, they would rarely hit their main peak of how many submissions they would get. Like they would actually end up having to repeat days of showing the same short films over and over because they just didn't get enough. So short films are great. Usually you want to keep it under 20 minutes. Between 5 and 15 is your sweet spot, because you can focus on that 5 to 15 minutes being the best they possibly can. And trying to spread that out over, say, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, hour, 90 or 2 hours. It's very difficult when you're just starting out. So focus small and build your way up.
Yeah.
And the other part too is studio execs. They see features all the time. They don't care. They're not impressed by features. It's part of the business. But if you give them a short film of 5 to 10 minutes that really blows their socks off and tells a coherent story in that time, that impresses them. And it also works well because they can go through 100 of them in a day or in an afternoon and not have to worry about, all the other stuff going on. Compared to feature films, which you can't do 100 in a day. It's impossible. So, well,
case in point, and we'll just move on because I think this one here on screens for you too, real quick, script before you leave, if you can. Like, what was it, Lights Out and a couple other short films? Mm-hmm. Those were more or less like proof of concepts at the end of the day, and they ended up becoming movies. Now, whether or not the movie was good or not is debatable, but that's a good example of how to get yourself noticed, get something made, especially with horror, because it's a very easy, it's accessibility.
It's the only genre that will never die. People like getting scared in movies.
There you go. And then Strike Burn Hollywood Down says, could the unions have an issue with things like Willow being taken off in respect of royalties? Also, Rip Ray. Actually, I brought this up. There are people already griping about this. So Script Doctor, do you think this will be something the union may have something to say about eventually? Because you were kind of pointing that out a little bit earlier.
Not just with the WGA, but the SAG-AFTRA and the Directors Guild, PGA, they'll all have to make a petition for a buyout, because if they had negotiated for residuals and stuff for the foreseeable future of the existence of Disney Plus, then that'll have to be speculatively addressed, and then it'll most likely be part of the write-off prior to September. Basically saying they get a gross sum payout to equate X amount of years that this could be potentially profitable before it no longer be driving subscribers or residuals onto their streaming service. So that'll most likely happen. If Disney tries to hide that, you'll get a lawsuit, most definitely, from all those guilds, and it'll quietly be settled out of court or before it even gets to an arraignment.
Yeah. And yes, believe it or not, there is a debate to whether or not the movie was better than the short film. A lot of people I've talked to think the short film was better. But anyway, Big Daddy MRI says 2 years of great streams and videos. Thank you. Yes, happy anniversary, Big Daddy MRI. He also sent us in a super sticker. Thank you so much. It was, let me see here, a character dancing under a rain of confetti and taking his hat off to say, "You are amazing." At least it was just your hat. But it didn't say what the hat was covering. Anyway, the Investigative Examiners says, great videos on ESG. Get James Lindsay on your show. He's an expert on ESG and liked your videos. ESG leads to social credit scores for individuals. Yes, I was pointed to this morning, and I sent you that, Andre, on Twitter. He shared our video.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do about it. I saw that he shared the videos. That was pretty cool. That was nice. Yeah, that explains that explains how it suddenly took off the way that it did.
Yep. And with that, I think I'm going to give Script his exit here. Thank you, Script Doctor, for your time. We appreciate it. Anything you got to plug besides your Patreon, which I recommend?
Just go on my Patreon. I'm actually currently working on. I finally got some old journals that I found back when I was in LA during the 2010 to 2014, And I found some little tidbits with regards to how Warner Brothers was operating that I remember taking note of back in the day. So I'm going to be reviewing those and write up article about the craziness at Warner Brothers during their attempt at trying to mimic the MCU for their DC films. Because I was reminded about Charles Roven, who a lot of people forgot when it came to the construction of their DC film studios at that time. So yeah, look forward to that on my Patreon in the next few days.
Take care of yourselves, and we hope to talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a great one. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right. And let's keep going here with these super chats. We've got Marksman117B who says, introduce these activists to ChatGPT or ChatGPT. I think he means GPT. Like that one Norwegian fellow, the AI will sort them out. Not encouraging anything. Can't say the same about AI. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not the Norwegian fellow. I'm not familiar with this particular.
Yeah, I don't
story.
know.
I would like to expand on this, but I don't have the knowledge to do so. Sorry to say.
Neither do I. I apologize.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marksman117B.
Yeah, thanks for the support.
And then Mario Trillo says, to quote the late great George Carlin, my stutter's kicking in. The planet is doing fine. The planet's not going anywhere. The people are fucked. That's what he actually says.
Yeah. and you know what? Unless the people pushing ESG get their way, not even that is true.
What does the Earth want? Plastic. I love that bit. Make more plastic. Junji Doug Walker says, that fucking icon.
Who is that?
Junji
Doug Walker. Oh yeah. I see now. I just had to stop and think there.
I'm going to hell for laughing at it. I'm sorry.
While you get over that,
€5, yeah.
Here. I'm so disgusted by Disney having Moana's voice actress read out a hostage letter denouncing her own genetics for not being racially pure enough. And this is actually a very, very good point, because that is exactly what happened. Off camera, there was a rainbow gun or something like that, and she was made to step down for not having the necessary racial purity. That's literally what happened. I mean, how many times have like actors been told, put your money where your mouth is and step back from this role that demands such virtue of others? And the whole idea was that she was going to reprise the role until now. So, and I don't believe that was her decision. I believe she may have been paid
honestly
off something.
Well, she's one of the producers. That's what they were saying before.
Oh, that's her paying off, because she's not going to have anything to do with the movie itself. But someone behind the scenes were like, hey, you know what? You step back, and we're going to pay you. We'll give you like a producer credit or something. Give you a paycheck, just go away.
Any other time, though, they would have just told her flat out, you're too old.
Exactly. But in this time, they had already kind of like announced that she was coming back, so she had to do something. That's why she's now a producer on the movie, because otherwise there would have been no reason, none whatsoever, for her to be a producer. So her being a producer, that's a go away and just here's your paycheck, go away, give us a hostage video so we can virtue signal some here.
Yeah, until I hear otherwise, that's the best I can assess as well. Pilgrim Media says Disney stakeholder instead of shareholder.
Very, very true. This actually is something that we will cover in a few upcoming Disney video, because some of you have been wondering, why are we doing these Bud Light videos? That's not entertainment. No, but the reason we did them is that it's a perfect case study in ESG. And that's the starter for stakeholder capitalism, and that's what Disney is doing. So that'll be the follow-up. Now, when you've had like the primer, we'll see if James Lindsay will want to share that too. That'll be on pretty sweet when we get around to releasing that in the near future here. The difference, basically, then, since we have it on screen, shareholder capitalism. This is this is capitalism. This is basically the company wants to grow. It wants to earn money so it can pay dividends to its shareholders. Stakeholder capitalism is that the company is no longer there to earn money for the shareholders, but to provide value, and not necessarily financial value, but just be good and virtuous for all the stakeholders, like, the employees and the activists on the outside of the gate demonstrating, and Antifa over there, and some politicians over there. They're all stakeholders. So that's stakeholder capitalism. And we shall explore it in more detail in an imminent video. And then we can move on to the next super chat here. With CC Karaoke saying for two Canadian dollars 20, Willow video game on the NES was one of the greatest of all time. Was it? I don't know. I never played it, but
I'm trying to remember if I did. That's how much I remember it, but I was never much of a gamer.
I never had the NES. My friends had it.
You were a Sega guy.
Yeah. But I never saw that one, I believe.
I don't know if it got a Sega port as well or not.
No,
Can't recall. But I'll take your word for it, CC. We got John Evan Bear, who says on the Mario name thing, they should have called them the Scoleri brothers. But the Scoleri brothers weren't plumbers, though. They were killers. Petrus Loretta says, is it too early to start wondering when Disney might have to file for bankruptcy or get bought out? Oh, no, they're not anywhere near that.
No, not at all. They're too important for the cause.
Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they start selling off small properties and other bits and pieces of things they own here and there before they even get close to entertainment stuff. That's the thing. They will never sell off anything of real value because at this point, even Marvel and Star Wars have been tarnished so much, they're better off selling the company as a whole than trying to piecemeal them out because they'll never make back anything on them. It's kind of like Paramount with the whole Star Trek problem. But anyway, no, I don't think that's likely. Stian Monstad sent us a super sticker. I believe it's a thumbs up. Thank you so much, Stian Monstad. And please hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Marcel117B. Says AI convinced a climate activist to self-remove. Oh, really?
Oh, okay. So this would have been that Norwegian then.
I did not know about this.
Yeah. Well, if that only goes to show the kind of people that becomes that kind of activists, doesn't it?
Or actually how easily manipulated they are.
Yeah, it shows that too. Either way, I feel bad for this activist's parents and immediate family. And we'll leave it at that.
And we're caught up.
All right. And we did have like one
more story. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 6 helpfully brought up here in the back room.
Yeah. Is that this? What's this one? Oh, this is something else.
Disney begins third.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Star Wars one.
Firings
that we've completely skipped over, but all right.
Oh yeah, we have the Star Wars thing too. But yeah, no, this dropped at Deadline Hollywood just a little while ago. Namely, that Disney begins third round of planned layoffs. And this is exclusive. Deadline Hollywood writes the third wave of layoffs at Disney got underway today, sources tell Deadline. It is estimated to affect around 700 employees across the board at the company, we're told, while parks and resort remain mainly untouched. The pink slipping this week isn't aimed at any particular division. We hear television, which was hit hard in the second round, is largely spared this time with a small number of layoffs. Following the timeline of cuts Disney CEO Bob Iger confirmed in late March, this is expected to be the last of the significant layoffs at Disney for a while. However, there may still be some smaller cuts in the next couple of months, sources say. So in other words, don't relax just yet if you still work at Disney. So that means that they must have hired around 7,000 people already then.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm wondering how many of these people are the ones that were supposed to move to California, or from California to Florida.
I would imagine a great deal of them, because that's one thing we didn't touch too much on today. But this hotel, or not this hotel, but a big administrative building. This was something that Bob Chapek wanted to do, was to basically outsource Disney from LA to Florida, and Iger, he kind of put the kibosh on that, but he apparently didn't put the kibosh on getting rid of the people that otherwise would have been moved.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, they were trying to pretend like it was some big gotcha to DeSantis when I'm like, really? I mean, how many of these people are going to end up getting shit canned? Because that was the whole point, is they were moving these facilities because they could no longer afford to keep them in California.
Exactly, because the full story here is that they were spending billions on making this new building and everything. And then Iger came out and he said, but DeSantis, because you suck so bad, we're not going to do this now. We're not going to spend $1 billion on this new building, which would have given you in Florida so much tax. And yeah, that would have been horrible, were it not for the fact that they decided not to do that months ago already. And the moment that Chapek went out the door, that's when this plan was likely scrapped. So yeah, that's just Iger being...
As a reminder, is that those were the individuals who started the whole don't say gay business to begin with.
Yeah. So if they lose their jobs, then honestly, that wouldn't. There would be some
Schadenfreude.
There would be like some poetic justice to it, considering how many thousands of others have lost their jobs.
Billions that they costed the company.
For no reason.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, that's a part of that. But they're also threatening us with more acolyte Star Wars, as you pointed out in the headline.
Yeah, exactly. Because what I'm kind of hoping here is that maybe we can hope that Lucasfilm will be a little bit affected here. Because you all remember the High Republic. We haven't spoken much about it in a while. This is the publishing initiative where they have diversity, dinosaurs, and Geode the Rock with 0 points of articulation. You know, that rock toy or that rock character. This is all the High Republic. And Kathleen Kennedy, in a recent podcast, she's threatened to make more movies and TV series based on the High Republic that has literally no fans. Like, the single biggest buyer for it is Scholastic.
Hey. People love Geode, I think.
Well, at least he wouldn't be too expensive to bring to the screen. Just film a freaking rock.
No. Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy teases future Star Wars project that will adapt High Republic stories, touts company's abilities to transparently communicate their storytelling. Yeah, all of a sudden there's, stuff to make stories about now, There wasn't before.
Yeah, now she has created the property. Good, ideologically pure programming, which can be adapted in the High Republic series.
And I've been told by a few people that board we saw was Filoni's board.
I would not be overwhelmingly surprised. I mean, he should have been. He would have been there, wouldn't he?
Yep. Because that all came about when he got pushed up to head of creative. So yeah. Again, Bounding has a write-up on this, so go ahead and check them out for more info on that. But yeah, yeah, this is not going to be not going to work out the way they want it to, I don't think. But we may have more to say on that on Wednesday, I imagine. We got a couple more super chats here. Dara says the OG NES Zelda game would make a great straightforward action adventure movie. I can see it work like Legend, Dark Crystal, and Willow.
Well, we'll see what they do with it. It's already in development.
Or actually, maybe even farther than that from what we've heard.
Yeah.
And then we've got Ace 1589 2001 who says, "You failed me, Andre. Mario 3 was always Mario 3. The Japanese Mario 2 became known as, well, to be real and clear, there's a lot of people who will debate this because the Lost Levels, is that really a game?
Yeah, was it ever released?
It was released as Mario 2 in Japan, yes, but I don't know if it was really released anywhere else outside of Japan.
Was it released on a cartridge, or was that like some kind of like online special or something? Was it ever put out on a cartridge that said Mario 2?
Well, it was part of their cartridges at that time, I believe. It did get an actual release in Japan, yes. Maybe a few other places that I don't know about. But.
Yeah, okay. Well, in that case, yeah, then I guess Mario 3 actually would be Mario 3. I just kind of like the idea that you have like Sonic and Sonic 2, where Sonic 2 is the best of the series. And then you have Mario and Mario 2, with Mario 2 being the best of the series, just because of like Japanese numbering and stuff that ended up being Sonic 3 or Mario 3 in the West. But yeah. Well, I stand corrected then. If the
I should have technically corrected you,
but if that ever got a proper release, then I stand corrected. But again, I'm a Sega guy.
But it's known as the Lost Levels most other places, so it is though actually the sequel.
Yeah.
But I argue that it's barely a sequel. It's just a harder version of the first game with a bunch of shit thrown at you. I'm not a fan of it. Not a fan of it.
And just to prove that I do know my Sega, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best. Fight me. Actually, you know what? It's really the best. That's a modern reconstruction called Sonic 3 Complete. Because Sonic 3 and Knuckles, that was something that they did out of necessity, because the original Sonic 3 fell behind and it was just too big. So they decided that, okay, let's split this into 2 games. We're going to release a stripped-down version right now called Sonic 3, and the rest of the game we're going to put into this lock-on cartridge. And when you lock the 2 together, then you get Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is in reality the original Sonic 3. Or at least close to what was original planned, but moderated or mods, not moderators, but like game developers, they have since actually completed the whole game and made Sonic 3 Complete, which you can play both online, plus from some select stores, you can even buy the full cartridge, which I just so happen to have in my shelf right here.
Yeah. And I see the gamers freaking out in the chat. Yes, I pointed out earlier that I should have corrected Andre and said there were technically 2 different Super Mario Brothers 2, because my point didn't even really have to do with that. My point had to do with the fact that the Super Mario Brothers 2 that we got everywhere else, the one that was the Doki Doki Panic reskin, is the one that got where they pulled the most lore from for the cartoons and everything else following. That was my point. Is that a game that wasn't even originally constructed or conceived as a Mario game ended up informing the franchise more than any other game had to that point, and it wasn't even a Mario game. So, like, that was my initial point. So, because a lot of that stuff is just reskinned stuff otherwise, but like none of that was like associated with Mario Brothers. They added the mushrooms, they added a few things that were Mario-esque, but otherwise it came from Doki Doki Panic. So, like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just kind of a funky way that it worked out. And then Super Mario Brothers 3, though, was inspired more by what was added to the lore from Doki Doki Panic. That was my other point. So at the end of the day, Super Mario Brothers 3 is really kind of a sequel to both games either way. So, but to most of the world, Mario Brothers 2 was that reskin, not the one they got in Japan.
Yeah.
But yes, that was on the disc-based system. So it did get a release there. So now every base is covered, I hope. Because some people just got to have it all right. And
so
we don't want to get it wrong. With that, as Andre says.
Yeah. With that, I'd like to say thanks to everyone for joining us today.
Yeah.
We had more than 2,500, no, more than 2,600 at the most. So everyone who still remains here, please smash that like on the way out the door. Be sure to check out Toxic Femininity later tonight. I do believe there should be a show, shouldn't it?
I believe so. I think we might even have a guest tonight, but I don't want to say in case that I misinterpreted or misremembered something. But thank you to the mods and Six, of course, for all the help in the background. And thank you to Chris for being here today, and Script Doctor and Culture, and hopefully I didn't miss anybody else. Take care of yourselves and each other.
And, check out everyone, Chris Gore, and all of them in the description. We hope to have Paul Chato back again on Wednesday, and we'll have more videos for you coming soon.
Well, we did just talk about it, Buford, but it'll probably come up later in the week because
definitely,
yeah, it's one of those things. Sometimes you try to get all these things in one day, and it doesn't always work out that way. Mecha J says the Legend of Zelda series producer has said that with the recent game being a hit and the Mario movie earning $1 billion, he hopes the series will get a movie. It's already been pretty much confirmed by a lot of people.
Yeah, it's definitely happening. Definitely happening, and probably much further along than any of us think.
That's what we've been told.
Yeah.
Actually, Doki Doki Panic began development as a Mario game, but that when it's changed, you guys just really got to get it. Magician Sapphire. You know what? Magician Sapphire, go watch the Gaming Historian's video on it if you want the full story.
But we do, but he evidently has. But we do appreciate the correction because we do not want to spread false information here. So we do appreciate the correction, and we especially appreciate the $10 that went into sending it.
Well, that part is true.
So
I don't know about it being a correction so much as an addition, right? Like that's my point. Is we can sit here all day, and we're gonna be if we sit here. That was why I reacted the way I did, because we'll be here talking for the next 2 hours on the history of these games. Because these are there's a lot that goes into these. So yes, Doki Doki Panic began development as a Mario game, then was changed to Doki Doki Panic because Nintendo had a contract to fulfill for Fuji TV. This is true. It's a very convoluted story, but Video Game Historian did a great video on it. I'm sure there's plenty of other ones out there about it as well.
Yeah. You know, I never actually played Super Mario Brothers 2.
I like it
because I didn't have the NES. But a friend of mine did, so I went there and I saw him play the whole thing all the way up until the end, where we learned that, spoiler, it was just a dream the whole time. Which is why I stand by. You know what? Super Mario 3 actually is the real Mario 2, because Super Mario 2, whether it's Lost Levels or Okie Dokie, whatever, was just a freaking dream. Never happened.
Which is weird considering, like I said, all the stuff they pulled for all the cartoons and everything else, you know, all the stuff that most people associate with Mario comes from that era, right? Which is funny that it ends up just being a dream, but go figure. But then, of course, when Mario 3 came along, that influenced it more so. Anyway.
Mario 3 was just like a stage production remake of the first game, wasn't it?
Something to that effect. And then you got Super Mario World, which is the actual sequel, if I remember right. So, like, yeah, it's... Oh, no, and no hate, Magician Sapphire. We love you too, of course. I'm just, like we just said, we'll be here all day. So, you know, we really want to get deep into it. Mario's name wasn't even Mario originally. It was Jumpman, because it was actually meant to be a Popeye game. So if it wasn't for Popeye, we wouldn't have Mario. And that's why Mario looks like Popeye on the original Donkey Kong arcades, because they were, yeah, anyway. See, we'll be here all day.
Yeah, indeed.
So take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you so much, guys. And with that, as Andre says,
it is time for some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koalas in the rain.